It's that time of Monday again, and we're live.
Hello.
Hey, everybody, how's we doing? And I am joined this week by Tom,
Hello, everyone. Nice to be back.
Mike,
Hello, everyone. Nice to have Tom back.
and Jay.
Hello!
And I just want to start off by reminding everybody that we are brought to you in part by HCRealms.com, your one source for Heroclix information and gathering of such information, as well as tracking your collection. Use the forums to keep up with the conversation. Use the unit section to keep up with your collection. Use a rock to keep up with what's going on in the competitive game, as well as find out where your local rock tournament is going to be held. And while you're there, check out the shop. Put in the coupon code MARRIED for 10% off of your purchase. That's some of that cool Heroclix paraphernalia that they have. As well, we're brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com, the first stop these days for Heroclix tournament updates. If it's a big tournament, Majestic CCG does have it, and the Apex Insiders is a premium source for tips and tricks articles, as a lot of great writers are on there, including the newly added Jay Solomon. Is going to be doing his own article series, apparently, on the Apex Insiders. So, Tom and Mike, get off your butts and get going here.
Should I mention what it's about quickly?
Oh, I bet not. What is your article series about, Jay?
It is called Why Don't I Play This Piece? And it is basically about figures that really should be played competitively that are not. The first one was about Power Ring, and I basically go into what they do and why that thing that they do is competitively viable and their keywords, and then I make a team with them. And I actually made a team with Power Ring to play at Wizards Cash this past week for the competitive tournament, but I couldn't make it, so...
Yeah, good first article, by the way. Read very well.
Yes,
Yeah.
I read it as well. It's excellent.
I have to read that still, but I will get on that. I promise. It's been a busy week with the Collins family, to say the least. So I've been a little distracted of late, but we're trying to get everything back together. We are back on schedule with Metaphase, back on schedule with Dial It Up. Next, Jason has got to get back on schedule with getting these games scheduled up, but hopefully this week we can actually get them working soon enough. But, let's talk about our week. Tom, how was your week?
Fantastic, as it was on vacation. I've spent the last week and a half traveling in Atlantic Canada. Went down to Prince Edward Island and spent a few days there, soaking in the green grasses and the red roads and all that good stuff, and visited the Charlottetown Festival, did all the good stuff that you do there. Went up to Acadian New Brunswick on the province near Caracat for a couple of days, and then down to the Bay of Fundy for a couple of days, and now home. So I'm drinking my delicious New Brunswick microbrew 8 vodka, which is very yummy, and I'm very happy to have arrived just this very day, right back in reality again to join you all.
All right, awesome. Mike, how was your week?
Good. I'm currently supping from my artisanal Red Bull here. It's lovely.
Red Bull.
There. Yes, I can taste the oak from the barrel.
Bad news. That's a bad batch if you can taste it.
That is a bad batch if you can taste it. Yeah,
a tree fell in it.
Yeah. This week's been really fun and good, specifically surrounding Heroclix. Ran a tournament on this past Wednesday at the Wizards Cache, 333 Blue Street East or West, right next to the Battleship Museum, underneath Willow Books. Come on down. Yeah, it was a meta practice for the upcoming Canada Cup, and I won the tournament. Yay.
Mm-hmm. It was rigged.
Really, it was totally rigged. Collusion! It was a lot of fun. The turnout for a summer tournament was not bad, especially for a meta one, because the term meta can scare some people off occasionally. I also had a chance to practice with one of our unofficial teammates, Mike White, who's been on the show before, yesterday, and I'm still feeling very, very good about my team overall and its chances against a variety of different things. I'm starting to understand its weaknesses a little bit better and create strategies to counter those as well. So that's pretty much all I've done Heroclix-wise this past week, though.
All right, Jay?
I have not played Heroclix in probably since last Saturday or something. Because I have my exam the day after the Cup, so I've been studying intensely to be able to be prepared to then go to the Cup.
Yeah.
because I like spending time with Mike.
It's true.
And we do here support you in your ways of school, or anybody who's in the midst of school. School before clicks, everybody, at all times. Most times.
Except when it interferes with clicks, and then no.
Yeah.
Then you gotta weigh the options. Myself, it's been a hectic week for the Collins family. A little bit of a tragedy happened, and we're kind of coping with that. So I did my best to get some gaming in, which ultimately turned out to be none. And I actually had been distracting myself with another game, so that's just kind of how the schedule has turned out for me. Hopefully to get things back on track this week, and kind of perk it up a little, as it were. But on that note, I am excited for this weekend's Canada Cup at 401 Games, and super stoked because I'm pretty sure I can do fairly well with the team that I'm bringing. And then it's just a matter of eking out a couple tough matchups that I've been presented with in the past. So that said, let's get actually into the meat of the potatoes of a fairly long episode we have. But with my unfortunate bad news, I have to also start us off with some less than hotness. And of course I didn't set up the screen share properly to make sure. I didn't do my testing. So give me a second here.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I can just flash my camera towards this pile of rotten garbage, and we can just start the conversation there. Yep. I think that was a joke.
All right. I must have hit a button or something. I'm not sure.
You know what? I got it right here for you.
I got you guys.
There you go.
All right. So let's talk about Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Mm-hmm. So Ragnarok comes in 120 points. This is one of the grand prizes for Civil War. This is the last month when you're kind of drafting through all these prizes, stack of prizes, quote unquote. At this point, Ragnarok comes with Dark Avengers, Pro Registration, and Robot keywords. And then what you see is what you get, with the exception of he flies. He's indomitable. He's 120 points. He's got 7 range. He's got a special power that he has on his last half of his dial. So 4, 5, 6, and 7, where when Ragnarok KOs an opposing character, give all opposing characters within 4 squares of the KO'd character's squares an action token. It puts squares in brackets because, what if they're a multi-base character? These things happen. So being aware of that. Outside of that, he starts with some charge and some shape change. Goes into mid dial goes to mid to late dial with sidestep, wrong sus, and psychic blast. And who did we say was going to take the lead on this one?
That was you in this case.
Was it me? All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think I've already referred to it as a pile of hot garbage.
Yeah.
But I say that in lovingly and in comparison to the Ragnarok we have. The one we have is such a behemoth of a character who also starts with, if I remember correctly, running shot and psychic blast to go in.
Energy explosion.
Range is energy explosion.
Energy explosion, yeah.
Even better because he can hit multiple characters right off the bat. Yeah. To kind of add to that, the Ragnarok does. The other Ragnarok we have is really prime for Justin Safer because he can follow up his big move and then attack with a running shot and then an attack. So overall, just. This guy feels lackluster I'm sure in a world where I didn't have that other Ragnarok, this one would seem better. And I was talking to the guys before the show. I feel like there's a line being drawn around Civil War at some modern age cut that maybe this guy makes a lot of sense. But right now, he kind of plays well in Civil War, but outside of Civil War, he's going to have some issues. Right?
Ow.
That's kind of where I see him on that. Tom, what do you think on Ragnarok?
I think he's bad. I remember a time when this type of dial would seem more attractive because, of course, he has double damage reduction for 7 straight clicks, which is pretty cool. And the fact that he's got upfront impervious and shape change together makes him hard to hit. His values are good. He would have been, at 120 points, he would have been a powerful force in, Hammer of Thor. But he's just not that good.
No.
All right.
Nope.
Mike?
Nope. He's a whole pile of nope. I wish that special power was there right off the bat to maybe actually be able to do something with it. That might help it a little bit. But as you said, in the set it's good because the set's a little lackluster overall. But you're never going to be able to play it in the set because it's a grand prize. It's just, well, maybe for that home game where you're like, let's play Civil War and not use better characters that would fit into that scenario. Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed with this character. The other thing about that, the Prime itself, which I do have a copy of, its sculpt is much nicer than this. It really is. I mean, just to look at it, it's great. And that's not necessarily a meta comment, but
you're so bad all the things that are bad. It's like so bad
all the
that
things
even
are
the
bad.
sculpt.
Yeah.
You say that, and I'm staring at a Phoenix Buster Iron Man right now, so it's just like, oh my god.
Yeah. Oh, you mean
about
that guy over there in the back? He's right there. Yeah. Anyway, what do you got to say, Jay?
I mean, what is this?
It's pooping.
What am I looking at?
It's a range character with charge, and not even good charge swing, and 10 attack, and what is this?
He's bad.
Like, it's like in the book he was like really powerful, considering he just swooped in and just killed Goliath in one shot. That was a big thing in the story, but here he's just, I'll get there eventually. No rush.
This is gonna be a guy that can't basically exist on your team without TK.
Yeah.
And even with it, it's like, why did I move him?
It's like his stationary sculpt is just there to reflect his top dial perfectly. It's like, what am I doing?
Well, and he kind of side shuffles in the late dials. Like, I'm gonna just squeeze and get the range. No, not quite.
And also no Asgardian keyword this time makes me sad. That's just, I mean, it's not a make or break factor because there's nothing to make or break, but it's sad.
Doesn't help either, though. All right. So, moving from there, now, this week at Heroclix.com, they spent an awful lot of time talking about the new champ figures. I'm going to show my face for a second. And they actually had interviews posted with each of the champions and their decision-making with regards to the figures. We're not going to share so much that as we're going to just share the figures ourselves, but if you check it out at Heroclix.com, each of the items will have that setup. So, without further ado, let's get rid of my face again and start talking about the Chameleon. And the Chameleon is courtesy of Patrick Yaboko. He won Worlds not last year, but the year before. So finally, as they say. Chameleon comes with Modox 11, Sinister Syndicate, and Spy keywords. His real name is Dmitry Smerdiv. I don't think we're going to find an ID card for him anyway. No. He's got 3 traits. I could be anyone. When building your force, you may include up to 3 standard characters of 60 points or less on your sideline. Those characters are disguises this game. Disguises can't be replaced or chosen for any game effects unless used by Chameleon. Then the second trait, the Master of Disguises. Give Chameleon a power action. No opposing character has line of fire to him. Give Chameleon a power action if no opposing character has a line of fire to him. Replace him with a disguise the same number of clicks from its starting line for the rest of the game. Anytime that character is targeted with an attack, roll a d6. On a result of 1 to 4, that character is no longer a disguise and is replaced with Chameleon, the same number of clicks from its starting line, and he becomes the target of the attack. This can't be ignored. And then he's got this third trait. I know who you really are, Spider-Man. Or I know who you really are, Spider-Man. Opposing characters, I'm sorry, I'm having a little hard time enunciating because I didn't practice this ahead of time. Opposing characters with 3 squares can't use shape change or be replaced. Then he's got a special movement power. Chameleon can use shape change, stealth, and is a wild card. And then other than that, he's got a few instances, or mostly that movement power on his dial, but then what you see is what you get for powers. He has 70 points. It is clearly marked as designed by Patrick Yaboko. What do you think, Tom?
I think he's really cool. He's definitely a cerebral piece. I wonder, because I have no way of knowing, the whole thing about when building your force, you can include up to 3 standard characters of 60 points or less. This is purely me wondering. Did Patrick come in wanting it to be 60? Do you want it to be more? Do you want it to be less? I mean, if he was 65, then you could bring in a Nighthawk Prime, and it would seem like that would be a bit of a broken concept. As it is at 60, you can still bring in a Peggy Carter, which is pretty awesome if we're talking about bringing in primes. But you've got a lot of options. I appreciate the fact that he's effective without needing to use those disguises. Obviously, that's the thing that really makes him a knockout piece. But as far as a piece that is a stealthy perplexer who is protected by both shape change and super senses on his top dial, along with being able to borrow a wild card and shut down shape change by being close in, then he provides a lot of utility to your team at a 70-point cost, and is more resilient than he may seem. Because if you don't bust through stealth, you can't shoot him. You got to get next to him. He's got shape change. He's got super senses, and he can perplex himself up. In addition to whatever he can be taking from the wild card, he's got a lot of options there, and he's got a little bit of regen to keep himself alive. That little bit of outwit you might or might not land on. He's an effective little piece in his own right, and the disguise thing is pretty amazing. It makes him a knockout. It just makes him a knockout piece. I also love the fact that when they would attack the disguise character, if you roll the d6 and make it 1 through 4, they're no longer disguised and replaced by Chameleon, and he becomes the target of the attack. Now,
that's a failed shape change.
Yeah, exactly. Now, can he shape change again?
We're not sure yet, basically.
Okay. Because
based on the wording, I would say yes.
I would say yes as well, but I understand that it may not be finalized at this point. If he can, that's incredible. Even if he can't, you're still sitting on super senses, so you still have another rollout. So that was the point that I was going to drive towards, is whatever the outcome of the shape change conversation, you've got still a rollout chance even after he comes back in. So yeah, I think he's great, and obviously you've got an unbelievable number of options as far as being able to choose disguises. The sideline real estate becomes even more valuable with this guy out there, but shutting down shape change in a world where Nick Fury has a traded shape change, and well, I mean, there's a long list of people who have traded shape change, just have shape change. It's a crazy good power, and there's no way to take it out without directly, unless you're outwitting it, which in a lot of cases you can't, or if you've got Battle Fury, which in a lot of cases you either don't want, and a lot of characters don't have. So shape change is an unbelievably good power, and there aren't nearly enough counters for it out there. So here's a great one. If that's all he did, that would be enough, but he does so much more.
All right, Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
Fantastic piece. He's great for his points. I love all three of the champion figures that they presented in this set. I'm surprised that they crammed them all into one set, but I mean, it makes sense considering what characters they are. The anti-shape change is fantastic. The replacement, the anti-replacement thing is fairly unique. The overall just values 70 points. I mean, I think Patrick was going for 70 points. He's like, guys, as low points as possible so you can be included on a whole bunch of different teams. I don't think that ID cards necessarily came into the equation when this was originally formulated, because they were either just starting to be considered or they just were not a thing yet. Because I mean, a lot of times these things get designed a year or two before they get released, because they have to wait for a set that suits the piece itself. Because you can't really have a Chameleon in Trinity War or something like that. Overall, fantastic. That's pretty much all I have to say. I think that Tom hit the nail on the head with the remainder of the comments.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, Jay?
I would have loved to see Chameleon in Trinity War. Just saying, that would have been really good.
Chameleon, Trinity War Chameleon. It's great. Versus Superman.
It's so interesting that he came out now, because there's so much about him that just is newer in terms of what he does and in terms of his wording. Like, I'm questioning his thing says standard character, which excludes tiny characters, but is that what Patrick intended when he designed it?
I'm pretty sure the word standard didn't show up at the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Like, what did they change in this? And what did he actually sit down and design in the first place?
Yeah.
He is quite good, and it's nice to see the whole shape change. I think the last one stopped shape change or alter egos or something, so it's nice to see something like that again. Because he is, of course, the master of disguise, and I will take every opportunity to turn him into Turtle.
As you should. I will turn him into Mystique.
I don't like you because that was what I was going to say, and that was literally the first thing I said when I looked at the solid 60 points thing, because that is just the funniest thing.
Yeah.
What, you turn him into Mystique, she has her token, can't be targeted, you make an attack, she rolls her shape change, she fails, turns into him, he rolls his shape change. Like, just the whole chain of just
so
subterfuge and
so evil.
lying.
Yeah.
Like, even I would successfully roll one.
And Pat's looking real beautiful in that mirror there.
Isn't
I
he?
like that that's one of the less intrusive or objectionable ways to put a champ into the set.
That's
You know,
fine.
this year has been a good year for them, because when we see Mephisto a little later, it's a
Not that
consistent...
I ever usually have a problem, but it's nice to see that like this is not one that other people should have a problem with.
No.
Hopefully. He is good.
All
right.
So good.
Yep,
He's
and
real good.
I can't really add to the conversation because there's so much to say, and all of it got said. I'm really looking forward to throwing this guy on the table and replacing him with as many silly options I possibly could come up with,
Right.
Including Signal Man.
That's not going to be a thing that happens in my games.
Unfortunately, I looked up when he came out. I looked up just like what figures are played competitively that like it will be a good option to actually turn him into. Assuming you didn't want to like put him into a character that was way too few points and easy to kill or whatnot. But like, there's not as many competitive options as you'd think.
No,
so,
but like I said,
there
I'll come
are
up
a
with some
fair
silly
few
stuff.
that are good, but
I'll say.
Challenge accepted. All right.
Yeah, no kidding.
next
There's a
up.
lot. Anyway, go on.
I think for the USA Cup, Patrick said there was a prize for whoever made the best team with Chameleon.
All right. So the devil himself has made his appearance again.
Oh yeah.
Mephisto. How appropriate to show up in the Spider-Man set, because that was a great storyline that didn't do anything to Spider-Man's history ever.
Oh, man.
We have the devil, or the Marvel devil himself, Mephisto. He comes with the deity, mystical, and ruler keywords. He's got 2-point options at 130 and 45. The reason I mention this now is because his first trait, worthy of my full power. If Mephisto is 45 points, he is KO'd when he crosses the red KO line. If he is 130 points, he has Power Cosmic, is not KO'd when he crosses the red line, and can't be healed above the red line. So he starts above the red line, but you can't heal him past that.
Yeah.
Then he's got the second trait, Lord of the Underworld. When a character would miss and doesn't have a contract token on his card, that character's player may place one on that character's card, and that character can use probability control to target that attack roll. Characters with a contract token on their card modify their defense value by -1, and when they are KO'd, Mephisto may heal 1 click. So it's kind of that dark bargain with the devil. It's like, yeah, I'll give you probability control.
It's
Have
that
fun with
temptation.
Yeah.
It's just temptation. It's there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's got this really cool movement power, Unseen Manipulator. Mephisto can use Sidestep and Stealth, give Mephisto a power action, choose an opposing character within range and line of fire, and place that character into a square adjacent to their current square. If no opposing characters within 4 squares, this is a free action instead. And then he's got a special defense power, gives him a stop click, and gives him invincible. They added the can't be ignored, even though stop kind of adds that as well. Paris's face is nice and classy in the gem there. I thought that was pretty cool. And his stats are pretty cool. Pretty neat figure overall. Mike, what do you think of Mephisto?
First of all, the picture is wrong inside of the jewel. Paris has scraggly hair a lot of the time. It just like comes down to here, and it looks like 3 days no bathing or anything like that.
But when he won Worlds, this is what he looked like.
Oh, okay, yeah. He cut his hair that day because he knew he was going to win. Overall, I love this figure. As soon as I looked at it, I was like, yeah, 130 points, and I'm going to make it into a 155-point character because I'm going to be possessing it with Brainiac. Brainiac on click 3, as we know, gets that ability to, whenever an opposing character uses the power action, they can take off a token. So you can have this guy continually running shot Pulse Wave around once he hits that actual stop click. That stop click itself being amazing, within the whole idea that invincible can't be ignored, so you can't pulse wave your way through his invincible. So you do need a fair amount of damage to actually get him down. On top of him being able to heal up in more than one way, as we see the last 2 clicks are 19 defense with shape change and regeneration. So he's going to be able to maneuver his way around. Plus the phasing teleport if you'd really like to use it to get away from somebody who you feel is going to be KOing you in the next turn. I just think it's well constructed overall. Having Mystics and the Cosmic Team ability on top of that, once you're past that red KO line, is amazing. I'm really impressed with this figure overall. The first 2 clicks are great. They're great setup for what comes with the third and on. I love the 12 attack. Printed 12 attack is amazing for 130 points. I'm just really, really pleased overall. I talked to Paris briefly about it as soon as it was previewed, and he agrees Brainiac is the way to go with this character. Let's see here. The contract tokens, that temptation, as you were saying before, the temptation to use the prob if you're going to miss when you're attacking this guy or another character on my force, if I'm using Mephisto, is incredibly tempting and feels very character appropriate. Plus, the sculpt is actually really nice.
Yep. All right, Jay, what are your thoughts?
I like the theme of the whole devil thing that he played. And he won with Faust. It was cute.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm very impressed with just the construction of the dial in terms of. I want to open up a bigger, whatever. I just like how he made sure that Mephisto could be so cheap by making concessions in certain things. Like how, if you look at the dial, there's actually those 4 clicks of 0 damage, which would drastically help keep the cost down. Especially when there are clicks that you wouldn't be attacking on anyways, which then leads to the 9 attack, which then reduces costs further. And even the low speed on those first 2 clicks just helps him be really budget and really lean, and then allows him to have the really good monster stats when you need them, while also not breaking the bank in terms of points.
Mm-hmm.
My main complaint about the figure is that I think that for 45 points, if you're playing that, it's just you're giving your opponent way too much with the contract tokens, considering how easy he should be to kill. And then he doesn't really benefit from the healing. And the -1 defense thing is, it's a fair cost if you really need that attack to go through. So, would not see myself playing that lower points, but the higher point I could definitely see myself playing. It looks quite good with all the healing and all the mystics and all the devilish temptations, and how amazing the movement special power can be to just disrupt your opponent's plans, depending on whatever it is that they have.
All right. Tom?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. I think that he's a really well-designed figure, and I think that he's quite cool. I personally think that the ability to give... At 45 points, I like the fact that all of your friendlies can get 1 use of prob at the expense of a point of their defense. I think that's a reasonable payoff for your friendlies. When you, especially, if you're putting them onto a team that is very Alpha Strike oriented, where the idea, if you're playing it on the type of team where the idea is you get in there, hit really hard, and you really want to make sure it hits because you're going to get it if you don't. At that point, it's totally worth it. And even if you don't do that, then he's still, a sidestepping stealth perplexer for 45 points. That will give your opponent a mystics damage if they take him out. So I think he's good at both of his point lines. My only concern, if you want to call it a concern, is only that, as Mike pointed out, with the invincible that is unpulse waveable and can't be outwitted, there's a pretty good chance it's going to take a couple shots to get him there. His defense goes up and he's got shape change, but he unfortunately falls into the category of people who are very Nick Furyable once he hits that click number 3, because of course you can't just say that power isn't there. Nick Fury's assuming he's the most expensive character on your force, then Nick Fury's base 3+1 will knock him onto his last click. All he needs is 1 extra little boost to knock him out in 1 shot. So it does make me... I'm always a little bit wary of characters that are very Nick Fury vulnerable, since for 5 points, mostly every team that I know of has the Nick Fury option available. Sure. So that's my only personal concern with him. I really like the figure a lot, but he is one that an awful lot is riding on 1 power that Nick could take away. So I think he's fantastic. He's a 2 thumbs up figure for sure, that has a bit of a caveat in execution when we're talking meta play.
Yeah. And that about covers it all, even from my standpoint. I think there's places I can see the 45 point showing up in the sealed based on what I've seen on the set so far, because sometimes you just need that perplex. assuming that Mephisto also isn't, on those 3 clicks, one of my best possible attack options. So, moving on next to the dinosaur of the devil himself. Not really, actually. He's called Devil Dinosaur.
And he's bananas.
He is the crazy craze.
He is nutso. I know we've talked about him briefly, but let's talk about him in detail now we have the picture in front of us all. Starting with his first trait, Moon Boy hated me. Devil Dinosaur can use sidestep and can't carry. Then he's got a special movement power, unusual weapons of mass destruction. Give Devil Dinosaur power action if there are no bystander tokens placed by him on the map. Choose a type of bystander on this card and that you haven't chosen this game, and place 3 of them within 3 squares and line of fire. And those include the Drop Bear, which have a trait, Automatons of Hate. Drop Bears move actions they all have this, move actions don't count against your action total. They have charge, blades, claws, and fangs, and combat reflexes. They are cute little koalas. And of course, they're really insisting that you use the blades because they have 1 damage, and they're tiny. Next, we have the Homicide Crabs, which have Leap, Climb, Pulse Wave, and Super Senses.
Oh, God.
Absurd.
And then you have the Rockabilly Modocs. They have Running Shot.
I love them
Psychic
the most.
Blast, 4 range, 17 defense, 2 damage. So those are your options for the unusual weapons of mass destruction. Next, he's got a 3 clicks for his defense power. Cliched villainous monologue. Devil Dinosaur can use toughness. When Devil Dinosaur would take damage from an attack, he takes 1 unavoidable damage instead. This can't be countered or ignored.
He just keeps monologuing away.
Boom. I don't care. I will defeat you, villain. Next, hairy live birth nut-eating skin monster. Special damage power. It's a stop click, so it's stop. Devil Dinosaur can use Battle Fury. Devil Dinosaur can't be healed above this click for the rest of the game. And then he turns into a dinosaur for the rest of the game. This was made by Tim Bull, Nick Peterson, and Derek Thompson for winning the 2015 Heroclix Team World Championships. Jay, what do you think of the Devil Dinosaur himself?
I am very glad that I got first pick on this one because I have a lot of words to say. I'm in love with this figure. Not romantic love, but just short of that.
Maybe a little.
It looks like there's room between the legs there.
It's really hard to say what my absolute favorite thing about this figure is, but when the middle of the card, the part with the Pogs was shown at Origins, and I saw the flavor text of the Battle Fury, I just had to run over to the gentleman that made this and just laugh my head off, because getting to say that in any Clicks game is just perfect.
What power's showing now? Hairy live birth?
No, but it's...
that's the best.
I know they specifically said they liked that flavor text, but I just think considerable rectal distress is just too funny. The Pogs are all really good, especially, I think I kind of like the Drop Bears the most, just because they're tiny, so you can carry them. And then they have really good defense up close, where you can just stick them. They can tie up an opponent. They're a big threat, and they're not the easiest figure to deal with. Whereas the Homicide Crabs are hard to maneuver, and then they're harder to pull off. But they are a big threat as well. And the Modocs are, of course, really good.
Yeah, the Pulse Wave.
Right, but like the lower movement with leap and not being tiny means that they need to position and whatnot. They're not the easiest of the 3. They're the hardest of the 3 to set up.
It
will be worth it,
that's true.
but I think I like the Drop Bears most, also because they're koalas. And it's also nice to see MODOK back into Modern, especially when the Rockabilly did not succeed in making it into being voted in that year. Looks like another example of just knowing how to design a dial to just be as efficient as possible, with the 2 speed being both thematic for the character as well as a thing to keep the cost down. And in case people don't know, that Savage Land has a really good ATA, which is 3 points for once per game per character using the team ability when they roll d6 for blades. If it's a 1, they can re-roll it. So that's a really good thing to just add on to him on his lower crazy blades monster clicks. which is also very interesting to see now that I realize that they have they all have 2 damage. That actually works really well since you're probably rolling blades anyways, and then you don't really need such a high damage value. And he's got crazy long life when you take into account his stock click and his defense power. That is all but Nick Furyable. So, and it's also nice that they have. It's just so thematic in every possible way, including the trait where because he had the whole argument and killed Moon Boy and he carried him as a thing, then he can't carry anymore because he doesn't want to. It's just so much love for the book. It's just really great to see. But also definitely has competitive potential, and I love it. Along with every other animal now that has an obligatory 0-point add-on character to just be terribly annoying.
All right.
It's a wonderful figure.
Tom.
It's the best Heroclix piece ever made. Carry on with your lives.
I can't wait to shake a pack. Shake the packs because you know he's huge. It's going to be fairly easy to find him.
Actually, you wouldn't know this, but back in the... I mean, this is a thing I've heard. I didn't play back then. But back in the day, when the Captain America set came out, it was that easy to pick out MODOK. And it's so cute that he has a MODOK pog to go with it.
It was kind of that...
similar.
It was kind of that easy to pick up Devil Dinosaur and Moon Boy back in the day, too. So.
Like, if you just look at the actual picture of him, he's so huge. It'll be so easy to carry back.
Yeah.
I do remember actually dodging some of those packs that Tom was talking about in Mutations and Monsters. It's like, that's just a rare, forget it. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to get a good look at what's going to go on with this guy. He looks like a ton of fun. And those pogs drop in 3s. It's another thing to consider.
They all have to be dead before you can draw them again, mind you. Yeah. And so that's what makes the homicide crabs, for me, more like suicide crabs. Since all I can anticipate doing is dropping them, moving them, and the next turn pulse waving them to death. Anyone who's still alive gets pulse waved to push to death.
Yeah.
And ready for the next ones to come out.
Yeah. It's what I like to call the ultimate next turn piece, which is just a piece that you have to position first, then attack. But it's a thing you do when your opponent's push, so there's nothing they can do about it. But you have to set them up, and then I'm just gonna do 3 pulse waves. No big deal. This is gonna be fun.
I'm gonna say pop every time.
This is unbelievable. Like this for 100 points, really?
Absurd. Yeah, totally absurd. I love the fact that Nick Fury can get past those 3 clicks, but then
it's still a stop
anyway. Yeah,
I assume that.
Well, not only is it a stop.
Considering it's a power that says it can't be countered or ignored, and you only take 1 damage. The only reason to make that a stop is for Nick Fury.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it's there for. Hairy, live birth, nut-eating skin monsters. Stop click name ever.
It's my new insult when I'm not saying not my.
Sailboating for life, buddy. Sailboating for life.
Yeah, Next Wave's only a 12-issue miniseries. There's no reason not to read it at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. On that note, that's all the figures we have this week, and we're going to be talking about more next week, and then the week after that, we probably will have the set release, and we'll have a ton more to talk about the week after that, because we will have all the figures in hand somewhere, somehow. So, the next thing we're going to talk about is we kind of made some lists in anticipating the Canada Cup. And Mike, you kind of you birthed this idea. So how about you take the lead and tell us what we're going to be talking about?
Okay, sure, yeah. So basically, it's personal top 5 meta pieces, flash forward meta, as we've coined the phrase. Pre-superior foes, of course, because it has not come out yet. And it's really just about what we like and what we don't like, and there doesn't have to be any complex rhyme or reason to it, other than the fact that we think that they're meta and the reasons why. So, without further ado, I believe Jason's first, actually, in the list here, unless he's working on it, in which case Jay's first.
Yeah, Jay's first.
Well, I'm looking at the book, and there's a word that says Jason.
Yeah.
And there are no words.
There is.
That's right. There's no words afterwards. So you go ahead, Jay.
Go ahead, Jay. What you got?
Are we doing dramatic?
You can do it in whatever order you want.
However you feel, Jay.
I'm doing 5 down.
All right, man.
Use the
number 5 is Black Canary, who specifically goes with her ID card. That's kind of implied.
Yeah.
I kind of actually like her more than the Nova that she's replaced on most people's teams, but I actually used her before. Because her Force Blast is just unexpected, especially because I would just play her against people and they didn't seem to even realize that she had it. But I know in one specific play testing game against Mike, I actually used her Force Blast to knock somebody off the Manhattan Bridge to do an extra bunch of damage, and it was fun.
It was hilarious.
I don't even remember what her inspiration is. Probably like +1 attack or defense. Not that notable, but just
I don't even remember.
Probably the easiest, best pulse wave to pull off in the format. And she's a great character, and it's a great sculpt, and she's easy to get, and it's an easy to get ID card. So, easy.
And so the Black Canary you're talking about, of course, is the OP Kit Black Canary.
The only modern legal one.
The only modern one, yeah.
And
the ID kit, the ID inspiration is attack value +1, period.
Yeah, so not really that notable. Then we have the lower point KC Spectre, because with his power and how big maps are and placement, he is essentially prob that sees everything into your soul and everywhere else. And he's mystical, so he can see Lokis, which is always fun to foil their Loki tricks and manipulations. Number 3 should not be a surprise for me, and it is Fast Forces Atomica, who is just the best prob.
She's the bee's knees, and she is the appropriate size.
And apparently people have been making her able to attack with the enemy relic, and that is awesome, and I wish I thought of that. And it is amazing. And then number 2 is Nick Fury, because he is the be-all and end-all of everything, apparently, and he's going to be around for quite a while, and he will be doing his thing that he does really, really good for a long time.
Good, yeah.
And then the obvious last choice is the Windjet, because it wins.
Your first choice.
It's a Windjet. But the only really annoying thing about it is when I have it in my luggage when I'm traveling to an event, but not in a plane, and I'm just sad that I can't just ride my Windjet. That'll be faster than driving.
First world problems. First world problems.
It is the curmudgeon with the bag full of children that he throws at everyone. Yes. That Windjet. Good old Windjet. It's kind of like a aircraft carrier. Terrible. Hate it.
All right.
Yeah.
Next up, Mr. Mike.
I am up. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna go. I'll go last to first as well. So number 5 slot for me is Mr. Mix's Spitlick. Originally I had Krang in that slot, and I thought about it. I gave it a good long think, and I'm like, no, he gets bumped. Mr. Mixie is amazing. Between his ability to pulse wave and bestow tokens, which then bestows damage because of the ignoring willpower during the pulse wave, and his size ability, his ability to resize characters, he is absolutely amazing. Oh yeah, I forgot. And he replaces dice. Unbelievable for 70 points. He's just ridiculous. Absolutely absurdly good. I am then going to move on to one that I'm actually going to pull up on my screen here real quick, and that is Green Light. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. I should have had this ready before. Yeah. I remember when this character was previewed a while ago. Green Light. We saw it on the winning team at a recent Rock.
You're not sharing it presently.
No, I'm not going to share it. I'm actually just pulling it up so I can read it. Sorry.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we saw it on a team of the most recent Rock, in fact, the winning team there, and I was like, thank God it finally made it, because when it was previewed, I was so happy to see that special power that it has, 3 clicks in. Which is its special attack power, box within a box within an infinite number of boxes. Green Light can use barrier when he does, instead of placing markers normally. You may choose a single base opposing character within range and line of fire, and place a blocking terrain marker in each unoccupied square adjacent to that character. That character gains Earthbound neutralized until your next turn. At the beginning of your next turn, before removing the markers, give that chosen character an action token if it's adjacent to at least 3 of these markers. So really hard to avoid that token to begin with. I just thought that power, even though it's kind of like, tree falls in the woods and everything else has to, go that way, it's really hard to get around. And with the meta the way that it is now, there isn't a lot of really potent barrier out there. And that was one of the things that we lost when we lost the batteries, right? When retirement happened. So I guess it created that opening for him to be able to come into more usability, I suppose. Plus, he's 90 points, and then he's got that trait, which is friendly characters of 40 points or less can use toughness and the flight ability. So basically, bestowing flight to Atomica, for instance. Really excellent, stop click as well. 90 points. I think he's well worth it. He may, he's only 6 clicks, but 6 clicks for 90 points is still very, very decent. Overall, excellent piece. Moving from there, no surprise here. This is my number 3, Nighthawk Prime. He does that horrible, wonderful, horrible, unique thing, which is he poops on everyone's modifiers. And this is a very, very modifier-rich meta right now. It's, if you're not modifying stats, in a lot of cases, you're not able to actually connect. You're not actually able to hit. And that's not rocket science, but the fact that he poops all over it and then you just keep him in the background. In fact, a lot of times people just forget they even have him back there, and then they forget about the power. I've seen it happen so many times, and I'm like, yes. I'm like, by the way, you have Nighthawk there, so yeah, no. I would really like to figure out a way to make him, and if the fans are watching right now, if you can figure out a way to make Nighthawk Prime into the primary attacker on a team, please post that on the Married with Clicks Facebook page. I love Jay's face that he just made. It was excellent. Well worth the statement. Then I moved from there to Lex Luthor, which is the subterfuge token Lex Luthor. Let me just pull him up here. Luthor. He is the good. Yeah, excellent. At 200 points, I mean, people are using him as a vehicle to be able to crank out ID card characters because he can't be targeted. Excuse me, unless you began the turn adjacent to him. It's what Mystique has turned into something a little bit better, I guess, from there. But for 200 points, he's fantastic. Starts with Running Shot and Pulse Wave. There's really not a whole lot that I need to say about him because everybody's already seen him a whole bunch of times at this point, and we've seen what George Massu's done with him as well. He's fantastic. Excellent, excellent piece. Last but not least, this will come as no surprise to people, Loki.
Yes.
Con exclusive Loki. He is my number 1 pick right now. You cannot draw a line of fire to him unless certain conditions are met. Those conditions are you must have the Asgardian or the deity, deity or mystical keywords. Mystical really is not that hard to find, but once you get past that, you still have to deal with modified stats, shape change, super senses, and impervious with the way that I've actually got him laid out on my team anyway. And it's just a whole lot of horrible, and offensively he's got mind control, decent damage value, decent attack value. There's really nothing that's wrong with him for 115 points. Which turns into 130 points. 140 points on my team, and 144 if you want to include the relic. But overall, just a hard nut to crack, and is actually anti-Quinjet to a certain extent. It's a fair rarity these days. I love the face. I love the face that Jay just made.
You just have to preempt everything I say.
Made my day. So good. Anyway.
Everybody coming
with that, I will
pass. Team.
I will pass my turn to Tom.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that we were going to go in order, but I'm going to rearrange mine on the fly to go in what I consider to be the order. I wasn't sure how to take this because we know to peek behind the curtain on how we do this podcast, we share in advance what our are going to be in to fill out a little sheet. And so I texted Jason, who then told me to text Mike, so then I texted Mike, asking, when we say our personal top 5, do we mean the top 5 that we most want to build with, or what we personally think are the top 5 most, viable, prevalent, etc. in the larger world? And I was told, do either one. So I did neither. So I went with neither one because I like to be different. So instead, what I did as an angle on this was I went with what are the pieces that I most tend to think of as grounding a team in preparation for the competitive meta. So all the pieces that I've chosen are are lower point figures. When I say grounding, in this case, I don't mean grounding as in being the primary doer. I mean the one that adds that extra spice to your team that makes up for what it's missing. And so what I did is I basically shortlisted 5 pieces that whenever I'm building a team, I tend to think about these are pieces that can I fit this on the team in some way in order to round it out and to improve upon what it is. So no tent poles here, no high point characters here, but a lot of things that help me to round out a team and are really the most meta viable options to improve any team that you put them on.
It's
So
all the doodles. That's
yeah,
what you got, all the doodles.
yeah, it's kind of the doodles, and I'm gonna, because the first one is sort of cheating. I'm gonna go with a top 4 and my half cheating honorary mention. So my half cheating honorary mention is Nick Fury, and the reason it's half cheating is because Nick Fury at 120 points is far from a little doodle. But as far as I'm concerned, Nick Fury costs 5 points because it's very, very easy to be able to pull off using him with a level 7 ID card. And not only that, but I think that he works best as a level 7 ID card anyway, considering the fact that he comes in and in so doing, pops out next to somebody and immediately gives them the shield team ability to extend his range out to 10. If that's the only thing he's doing, he's already one up on the 9 range that he just has naturally. However, considering that he's giving out the shield team ability, he also gives lots of people the opportunity to use that shield team ability to boost up his damage value because you're popping him out as an ID character. You're going in front of the character. You can often put him in front of the character who's calling him in, so you kind of eke out a quasi-extra range from him by placing him better. Anyway, the point being, for 5 points, being able to call Fury is crazy good because he's an amazingly powerful assassin character that can take a really huge shot, and he can decide the game for you in one hit. And for 5 points, that's crazy. Next up, the bottom of my top 4 of can I fit it on the team is Jean Grey, and we haven't seen a lot of her yet. I suspect that we may see more of her as we go. I mean, certainly people are playing with her. She is showing up. I'm not saying that anyone's going to say, who's that, if you bring Jean Grey to the table. What I really mean is that we just haven't seen a team that optimizes her because she's not a very natural choice in a Quinjet setting by and large. But the fact remains she's an incredibly good piece. The free action TK is so valuable for being able to take characters into position before they call in ID cards. You can stretch at their swing considerably that way. Or just be able to use TK as a free action so that you can do things at the end of your turn. If for whatever reason you want to relocate a character as an end of turn effect, you can do it for free as long as she's got no tokens. She can TK twice within the turn. She's got an extra willpower to TK on their next turn without having to push to do it. And if she can be an X-Men healing battery if you've got some wild cards. That's a real distant secondary piece. Honestly, for 50 points, she's pure TK, but she's so good at it that I'm putting her on my list. However, she's not quite as versatile, nor as cheap as my number 3, which is Nightwing from the Fast Forces of World's Finest.
So good.
It's honestly 25 points for outsiders would be enough in and of itself. I would take that. For 25 points, I would consider that a steal. But when you take that and then make it so mobile, the fact that Nightwing has leap climb, and it means that he can get to wherever he needs to go to see what he needs to see. Outsiders has that massive 10 range anyway. So between being able to leap climb 8 squares and then having a 10 range on his Outsiders, he's got outstanding swing. He's got willpower, so that on the next turn, if your opponent moves in such a way that you can't see him anymore, he can move again to keep an eye on him. If that isn't enough movement, he's got sidestep, so that he's ensured to constantly be able to move around in such a way that he can always get to where you want him to be. He's just wildly annoying. And yeah, he's an easy 25 points for your opponent. They just need to commit an action to killing him. But stealth gives partial protection from wild card is incredibly useful, period, and it might either give him additional protection from that, or it might give him mystics so that they take a feedback damage, or you could use it with defenders or JSA if you want to be able to boost him up and make him a harder target. The point remains, he's not necessarily as easy to take out as he seems, and even if he is, honestly, he's earned his 25 points. If he's gotten your 200 point, your opponent's 170 point Krang has to use an action to take that guy out so that he can enjoy the benefits of his boosted stats. That's 25 points well spent as far as I'm concerned. He's just a dynamite piece. Then we go to my number 2 call, and my number 2 call is another one of these pieces where it's just no team isn't a little bit better when you add in a tiny character that can replace their dice and has the ability to turn into an amazing pulse waver that adds tokens so they can't retaliate. Even if you don't, with the ability to move for free when he's got 2 tokens on him, he's incredibly mobile in his own right. I am, of course, talking about Mr. Mxyzptlk, and let's not forget size manipulation, the last piece. Everything he does is useful. For 70 points, he is an absolute monster of a steal. And the only reason that he's not topping this list, I mean, spiritually, he is topping this list as far as I'm concerned, because I like Mr. Mxyzptlk a lot, and I don't like my number 1 a lot. But I can't deny that Nighthawk Prime is an unbelievably valuable asset on any team. I don't like playing him. I don't like playing against him. I don't like the fact that he exists. You know, I've talked a lot this podcast in greater or lesser detail on my idea of effects that give you extra stuff or effects that take things away from your opponent, and pieces that are bad for the morale of the game. And I think Nighthawk Prime is bad for the morale of the game, if I'm being honest. But that doesn't change the fact that he's unbelievably effective, and that when it comes to rounding out a team, there's almost no way that you can just across the board get in the craw of your opponent's strategies quite as much as saying that they can't modify their values upwards. That's just absurd. And he's, I think, the most meta piece out there, even if he's not a piece I particularly enjoy or wish to see across the table or right in front of me either. And there you go.
All right. So I kind of put mine together in secret to a degree. I just wanted to see how I came up in comparison to everybody else. A couple figures will repeat themselves in this list from mine. But there's also a couple of things where I couldn't put a single character in that particular slot for a number of reasons. And the first one, of course, is in my number 5 slot, any character named Ultron right now. Because, well, they're 30 points, and they facilitate one of the biggest and most flexible elements of the game, and that is, of course, the ID cards, which also actually fundamentally make up a lot of my top 5 right now. Because for one turn, what you get out of these ID cards, all you cost for yourself was 5 points, and in a lot of cases, you can make yourself more than 5 points in a single attack. It's pretty insane what these things are capable of, and that's why in number 5, when you talk about one of the bigger of the facilitators as in ID cards, the Ultrons they really make it. I mean, if you look at the requirements for an ID card, the character calling in somebody can't have any action tokens, and Ultrons are okay with that because when they take a power action when they have no action tokens, that action doesn't count towards your action count, and therefore when you call in a character with an ID card, well, guess what? I can still use him, and it's not really that big a problem now, because usually, in most cases, if you're not using an Ultron, you call an ID character, that's an action, then the action that character takes is another action. That's 2 out of your 3 in competitive play. So unless you found your way around with some extra free actions, you kind of lose a little bit. So those Ultrons, so good at using ID cards. It would be one of the Ultron's greatest enemies. That would be better at using the Avengers' greatest tool. And speaking of greatest tool, let's talk about a lot of characters in my list are just great because of ID cards, and one of which Jay mentioned, was the Black Canary, because Force Blast and Pulse Wave as a combination of powers is great because when you Pulse Wave somebody, well, they lose everything, and that ensuing knockback, which is guaranteed courtesy of Force Blast, means if I knock you off of a building, you're taking 2. I don't care who you are, unless you're multi-based, and in a lot of cases nowadays, a lot of the multi-based things that aren't named Quinjet actually have 1 click. So that's okay, because I've already dealt them damage. And again, to make it a little bit better than Nova, you actually got the potential to do 3 damage to all your targets if they're lined up in a silly way near the edge of elevated terrain. So nothing's better than seeing the look on your opponent's face when you say, okay, well, they all take 3. And then the next is a double-ended one because it depends on your team in this case. And that is the Green Arrow with an ID card, be it from Trinity War or the more recent OP kit from the Brave and the Bold OP kit. I say that because they both do very similar things, but then you're looking at your team and saying, can I bring out one of them? The 135.1 will be a little bit more difficult to bring out. There are some teams, like if you are using a Quinjet, use a Quinjet itself to bring them out. But a lot of the time, that 85.1 will be the one that you want to bring out because at 85 points, he's easy to bring out, and does a lot of the same things with the trick shot arrows. He just lacks some of the improved targeting and the precision strike right off the bat. But you're able to give him precision strike as long as you don't need psychic blast over it. So while one shines as better, they're both really equally good. Just depends on the team that you're calling them in with as far as an ID card is concerned. And then in the second place, another ID card facilitator or another guy that benefits of that is, of course, the Quinjet. And I can't believe this thing is 17 clicks. It is, as Patrick Iboko put it, a flying tank that, as you use more and more ID cards, makes more and more use of ID cards. And just, when you get extra permanent characters, it was one of the things that was really a glaring issue with team bases, is that you get this extra character on the board. Oh my gosh. Now, there's a lot of things that they do in this case, in the case of the Quinjet, that really balances out. You only have to deal that character 1 damage. They can't avoid pushing damage, either they're indomitable or willpower. And the Quinjet itself though good at combat, isn't as great as team bases were. So while it's like a lot of the same problems that we had, they took those problems and said, okay, let's make them easier to deal with. Anyway, but the Quinjet is dominant in the game for a lot of reasons. One of which being, of course, the thickness of style. Second of which is the more and more you use the ID cards, the more and more insane things that you can pull off with them. Watching somebody drop a 300-point Hulk in their face that isn't going anywhere unless you deal it some damage is a scary idea sometimes. But all that said, of course, we're still considering ID cards. And even outside of the ID cards, this character is amazing. And that is, of course, Nick Fury. Because what situation are you not building a team and thinking, what is Nick Fury going to do to me? And how do I deal with Nick Fury? Because whether he's permanently on the board by being brought in as part of the team, or if he kind of sticks around for a turn as an ID card character, or if he shows up later in the game, courtesy of a Quinjet, to be your nightmare. These are all things that Nick Fury can possibly be in the game, and these are all scary thoughts. And Nick Fury definitely stands out as that guy that says, okay, well, I've got a power that can't be countered or ignored, so yeah, okay, you can be Nick Fury then, eh? So... I like in the middle of that went Northern Ontario for whatever reason.
Where did that come from? You gonna go get a Timmy's and smoke a dart, or what?
You should have heard me at U.S. Nationals. For some reason, I went pure Northern Ontario, pure Newfoundlander. I don't know what happened to me. And it was really weird. And people were like, wow, you have a really weird accent. Like, oh, I'm not using my broadcast voice. That's why. Anyway, so yeah, that's my list. A lot of it based around the ID cards because they are really game-changing right now. And the temporary use of them, still the risk to reward factor is just that 5-point risk is so frequently pays off almost every single time. So on that note, let's get to the next topic. It's another list. Yeah. I feel like we're in the. If you guys have ever seen High Fidelity, where we're in the middle of that portion of the movie where everybody's just constantly asking each other for lists. It's like, hey, give me your list of your top 5 this, your Desert Island top 5 albums.
It also feels like our very own New Year's show or shows.
Yeah, absolutely, because we do that at New Year's.
We do a list, a lot of lists. I don't know. I think people like lists.
It's one of those things. Why do you think BuzzFeed has a website at all? But on that note, right now we're going into the wish it was better situation, and that is the top 3 characters that we feel are misrepresented in their clicks forms, and why we think that. And this list starts off with Mr. Tom. So Tom, take it away, sir.
I'm going to do some screen sharing as I present my list because I'm going into the long box a little bit for a few of these, and maybe not everybody will know. I assume everyone in this cast will know, but people watching at home. So
I don't know things.
Yeah, that's
How
fair.
dare you?
That's fair. We're going to start things off with X-Man. Now, X-Man is Nate Gray, and of course he came from the Age of Apocalypse. And perhaps I should put a caveat here that this dial is not really supposed to represent him in his Age of Apocalypse version. This is more trying to represent him when he had some other name or whatever. But when he became more evolved and sort of this all-powerful X guy. But the reason I feel he's misrepresented is not that he's too weak by any means. I mean, look at him. He's insane. At nearly 300 points, he's crazily good. He's a hypersonic speed attacker that has 8 range and 2 targets that can deal 4 damage with an 11 attack, and Prob Control backs it up. He's got invincible and a thick dial of other reducers, including the ability to sometimes land on powers where he throws up free barrier after getting hit. He's a wild card that can take powers from his team abilities from his enemies, I should say, and he's a TK machine that can use telekinesis. But all versions of telekinesis that he does are within 12 squares, and when he moves characters, he deals them penetrating damage. So for all these reasons, he's definitely a powerful character. But he doesn't feel at all like Nate Gray to me. And admittedly, I am very much living in the world of Nate Gray, either in the Age of Apocalypse or shortly thereafter. But that's the one I really wanted to see, and it still is the one that I would like to see, is the young kid who is practically exploding with this psionic energy that he doesn't exactly know how to control. When I look at a character that's running around the board with hypersonic speed and prob control, backed up with Invincible, I'm seeing a character that knows how to control his powers. I'm seeing a character that doesn't... that isn't that he has to reach deeply to tap into an unbelievable amount of power that he doesn't know that fully how to control, but explodes out of him with these uncontrollable, unknowable results. I see with this character somebody who is in full confident control of what he can do, and honestly, his dial feels like a grab bag of highly effective powers. You know, give him some Pulse Wave, give him some Running Shot Psychic Blast, give him some Hypersonic, give him some Invincible, give him some Prob. These are all good powers. Give him the good powers because he's the good. I just don't think he feels like the character. And that is going to be my complaint, I think, with all three of these characters, is not necessarily that they're bad pieces, but that they're pieces that don't adequately represent the character in question. And with some characters in this game, you know, we've had about a bazillion Iron Men, Spider-Men, and Supermen, but we're not going to see another Nate Gray potentially for a very long time. And I think it's sad that the only one that we have doesn't feel like Nate Gray to me. So I'm going to stop sharing as I move to my second one here. So, as anyone who rather frequently listens to the show or just knows me knows, I'm a big fan of the Incredible Hulk, and so it wouldn't be my list if it didn't include a Hulk on it.
You're a Hulkamaniac.
I am a Hulkamaniac, brother. And therefore, the Hulk in question that I am completely unsatisfied with is this one. He is Joe Fixit. Now, you could argue that the Incredible Hulk set was pretty lackluster in general, but the problem that I have with Joe Fixit is that for a Hulk fan, if you were reading the comics as they were coming out when Peter David took over the writership reins and brought back he kind of took the Grey Hulk who had just been brought back and really fleshed out that character, and eventually after really playing with who the Grey Hulk was and what distinguished him from the Green Hulk that we knew before, he did a sequence where he was in Las Vegas as a leg breaker and a bodyguard, and it was a wonderful, wonderful thing to read about a Hulk who still felt like the Hulk. He still felt like an angry, brutish guy, but he was a little smaller, he was a little weaker, but he was cunning, and he was exploitative, and he was mean, and he was very interesting. And none of those things are reflected in this dial. Once again, this isn't a terrible dial. It achieves the Hulk who's not as big and strong as the other Hulks. At only 115 points, he's kind of lean. His dial pretty much goes from more powerful to less powerful in the classic shape, so no kind of hulking out thing happening. But he doesn't do anything that's really special, and certainly he doesn't do anything that makes him feel like Joe Fixit. He has a fantastic 4 keyword, or rather team ability, exclusively because of his brief stint in the newer Fantastic Four, which really, I guess there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't really feel to me like the Las Vegas leg breaker. It just is a bit of a convenience that happened to be the version of the Hulk that was shoehorned into that one story that a lot of people remember. He's got the ability to use Leap Climb and then immediately use Quake. Any Hulk can do that. If there was ever a Hulk who seemed least likely to just kind of hit the ground with a big resounding smash and send anybody flying, it would be the Joe Fixit version, who was really kind of going around in a trench coat beating people up. And then he has Stunning Throw, which is basically just a variation on the old Stunning Blow thing, where he can make a ranged attack and give a character an action token. Again, that does not speak cunning or exploitative or formulating a strategy to work against this character. And anyway, the point I'm driving towards here is that Joe Fixit was a very specific time in the Hulk's history, and if you're going to make a dial that reflects that version of the Hulk, then it would be great for him to not be a watered-down version of the Hulk or a random grab bag of some ideas you had for making a dial, but something that really looks and feels like that version of the character at that point in his life, at that point in his development. And frankly, there's a lot of material to pull from. You can come up very quickly, if you know the character and the storyline at all, with 5 or 10 great ideas for special powers, traits, etc., that will feel appropriate to that version, and none of them are represented in this fairly lackluster dial. So that's my second one. And finally, for the last one, I'm going way back to the very first carded set, if you're not counting Legion of Superheroes. And this would be the first carded full set. And that is for a character who, admittedly, the idea of making a dial for this character is a daunting one. But my response to that is not come up with something bland, boring, and mostly ineffective. And that's what we got with the Molecule Man. This guy's a joke. Honestly, for 113 points, this guy makes Ragnarok look like, well, Ragnarok. He's bad. Again, there are a few things that should be acknowledged. This is before there were traits. This is before there were a lot of special symbols. I mean, they hadn't introduced Sharpshooter or Indomitable. It's not that I'm expecting he would get either one of them, but this is before they really started fully fleshing out the possibilities of special powers. They were still testing the waters. They were still playing along. I'm happy to, if as a sign of his age, look at his flight base if you want a sign of his age.
Soaring.
But again, I even with those points being put into place, what better opportunity than your first full set with cards and special powers to showcase how you can do things that you could never have done before than by taking a piece like the Molecule Man. Because what were you going to do with this guy before special powers came along? Just make him really powerful, make him erratic, and give him a lot of interesting powers? It would all seem lukewarm. You could do a lot with this guy. This was the set where they had the opportunity to say, hey, look, everybody, because there were lots of naysayers when special powers and cards came out. A lot of people saying that the game was going to become too complicated, or that there was going to be too much, too many problems checking text, and everybody had to carry around more stuff, etc. So what better way to say, look of all the good things we can do by saying, look at how much this feels like the Molecule Man. But this guy does not feel like the Molecule Man. This guy is awful. His stats are terrible. He's got that one random spike in his attack value and sort of his defense value, which I guess is sort of the idea is to represent him being very uncertain of himself and yet occasionally coming into moments of great power. But why is that matched with such a low damage value? His high damage value is matched with some abysmal defense values. Generally, he's all over the place and he's quite unpredictable. And okay, yeah, to an extent, that is an okay way to represent the Molecule Man on that point alone, but there's so much more you can do, and they just didn't. To speak nothing of the fact that he's absolutely unplayably terrible, and you could do anything with the Molecule Man. You could give him a Molecule Man that was very much an early career Molecule Man that was sort of more about manipulating the terrain and kind of a classic villain type and not the super powerful guy. You could make him an erratic, all-powerful guy that doesn't have full confidence in himself or his own powers, make him highly suggestible. Since time and time again throughout the years he's been manipulated by other people. You could give him sort of the godlike but still insecure and immature version that we saw in Dark Avengers. There's a lot of directions you could go. None of them are represented by this awful dial. And I really think that it's a missed opportunity because we haven't seen a Molecule Man since, and I don't think anyone remembers him because he's real bad.
I think you have a lot of energy towards the character, considering you, me, and Mike actually agreed on this character when it came to what happens if we do well enough in Team Worlds.
Yeah.
Three of us were like, Molecule Man. We all agreed on that.
We all did. It was when we got into the day 2, we're like, I guess we should. We were having dinner. I'm like, I guess we should. Or you said, I guess we should probably at least address the question of what we would make if we had to make a figure. And yeah, he was the one that we all kind of agreed on because pretty sad representation.
Yeah, and I will attest to that because I mean, there's a lot of times when I go way back there's a lot of remakes that still need to get done, and Molecule Man is definitely a glaring example of a remake that really should get done because the version that we have is just it's not up to par, not up to snuff with what we expect from the comic book. So.
Mm-hmm.
I actually in my life have only bought one pack of Avengers a couple years ago. A local store has a warehouse sale, whatever, and I was like, oh, this is a really old thing that I've never bought before, and of course, that was the thing. That was the most valuable in that pack. So, yeah,
Ouch.
I have one sitting around for some reason.
Yeah, I haven't burned mine. I was too disappointed.
You saved the burning for that poor Fanmax.
Yeah, there was actually a time where I was getting rid of a bunch of old clicks, and my poor buddy Ryan was holding a bunch of stuff for me between moves, and my trick to getting rid of the clicks was Ryan was like, "You gonna come get these? Nope, they're yours. Bye-bye." Molecule Man was among those things.
Good choice. Good choice.
I think he ended up throwing them out. He was like, well, no, seriously, what am I supposed to do? It's like, just throw them out or sell them. It's up to you, man. They're all yours, buddy. All right, next up, Mike.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike, and I don't like these characters. So hold on, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. There she blows. And blows.
There she blows, all right.
What is a pirate's favorite letter? You'd think it'd be R, but really it's the C.
This would have been on my list, but I felt Mike needed the spotlight for it.
that was a Mike White channeling moment there. All right. So first thing on my list here is Chamber from Mutations and Monsters.
Ugh.
It's the only Chamber we have in Click's form. I love Chamber from Generation X. I love that book way back. I met Chris Backlow at a comic convention when I was 14 years old. Got him to sign the first 2 issues because number 3 was not quite out yet, and remained faithful to the comic as long as it lasted, which was just, I think, not that long after Age of Apocalypse finished.
It amazingly carried on through Operation Zero Tolerance and all that crap.
Oh yeah, that's right. Anyway,
it got worse. Yeah. It got bad.
Not really the point. If I win Worlds, I'm going to remake Chamber. I think he should be pulse waving right off the bat. Personally, have some special power. I do like that he's 45. I do like that he's 45 points because he's not like a main character, but he's a lot more powerful than this. This is an older figure, obviously. It's from Mutations and Monsters, so I try to keep that in perspective when I look at it. But realistically, I would make him 4 clicks long and 90 points with a lock damage pulse wave of 3. You know, something like that. Something crazy, quick burnout, maybe even make him damage himself when he does it, because the guy blew a big old hole in his own chest when he manifested his powers. He's just so underrepresented in comics. I mean, he's not a huge character anyway, but I love Chamber, and this is not Chamber. So, that being said, I am going to move on to Lex Luthor here. You know what? You look at him, he looks all right. 150 points, pretty decent values, some good stuff that he does. This is the one from Superman and Wonder Woman. Now, the reason why I don't like him is that he should have been a frickin' chase, because Red Sun Superman is almost like it's about Lex Luthor. It really is. It's about Stalin's boy Superman going, at some point, I think it's time that I get the hell out of here so that this guy can make the world a better place, because that's exactly what Lex Luthor does when Superman is gone. He makes it into this wonderful place. I love the fact that that's this is a side note. I love the fact that it's a period piece, and I love alternate reality versions of characters and everything else. Great read, great book. But why the heck would you put Wonder Woman and Green Light in there when they're barely in the thing at all? Even Bizarro is less prevalent than Lex Luthor. And then I think that what happened is they created the set. They're like, oh, this is all set in stone except for, oh wait, we forgot Lex Luthor. Let's throw him in anyway in this other form. But it's stupid. He should be wearing a lab coat and do some amazing, incredible things. There's so many things that you could do with that Lex Luthor, because he is arguably the smartest of the Lex Luthors. So that's why I would just delete this character here. Moving on, Animal Man, the WizKids Con exclusive. I know Jay loves him. I love him too, but he's not the Animal Man that I wanted to see made. I want to see Rot World Animal Man, where he's a little bit more powerful and channels the red a lot more easily and readily, and get into that actual terminology as well. And maybe make a duo with him and Swamp Thing, maybe that would be cool. As a convention exclusive, maybe. Sorry, I'm channeling Louis C.K. there. Um, he's kind of disappointing. 75 points. He's not bad. The fact that what he does is what he does, and you can have the serpent on the sideline and be like, hey guys, I'm sitting down and I'm playing against you. This is intimidating. That's kind of cool, but overall, I don't think it quite encapsulates the Lemire Animal Man as well as it could. It doesn't really encapsulate the Morrison Animal Man either. Of course, he is wearing the New 52 outfit and everything else, and obviously he's supposed to be from that particular era. But I love Lemire, and I love Animal Man, and this is not my vision of Animal Man. Nerd rage done. It is over. Go.
All right. So on that note, since we're engaging in a little bit of nerd rage,
Rage.
I guess I'll take my turn, and I'm going to lead in. This is a character that I have an issue with for a number of reasons. One of which, actually, I think Jay is probably going to latch on to my idea here. Is Blue Devil is my character for one reason. Sometimes WizKids gets it in their head that we need a character who's just going to do a thing, and with Blue Devil, they chose that for some reason he just stop clicks. They call it supernatural exorcism. But he's not really, Blue Devil's not really the man you go to for an exorcism. Right? You know? And so, what? I mean, I get this Demon Hunter thing to a certain degree. Hey, oh, wait, my friendly characters ignore the Mystic's team ability? No, that's not. Blue Devil's usually the muscle when it comes to the Justice League Dark or the Shadow Pact of these characters. Like, he's the big broody guy that kind of does energy explosion and psychic blast. But the traits that they seem to latch on to this character, didn't feel Blue Devil appropriate to me. That was a big thing, a big flag for me with this character. And it's one of those instances where I guess somebody said, hey, we got to stop a thing, so let's create a character that specifically stops a thing. But they just kind of tacked it onto Blue Devil, and it didn't quite feel right. Not to the degree that, say, what's it called? Nick Fury did, because Nick Fury to a certain degree makes sense. He's got the Watcher's eyes, and that's really what they're going with. I mean, this guy, why? You know what I mean? Why? So.
Now that I think about it, it's really funny how I don't actually think there were any stop clicks in this set.
This set, no.
But there was Gluttony. But Blue Devil doesn't do jack against Gluttony.
No, because Gluttony just reduces the damage to 1. It's not stop the dial from turning. It's I take 1 damage. So, anyway, we're also in the same set for my second idea, and I tried to do characters that didn't get remade better or whatever that case is, but Kingdom Come doesn't count in this version. The Kingdom Come version is the Kingdom Come version. This is the Shazam we were supposed to have. I read this comic. What is this?
It's awful. That's a dreadful mess.
Exactly. He goes from charge to, you know what, flurry sidestep, to quintessence, and then he gets it again, but then he has Quake, and then, you know, he gets a charge at 9 attack. Like, what is this Shazam doing?
Sweet 3 damage values, bro.
Like, seriously. And, you know, beyond what the game exists in right now, just as a comic book character, this is... Even if this is based on the New 52 version, the New 52 version should be traded with, or should have super strength when he's not on that first click. That I'm okay with that first click doing what it does because he's Billy Bastion. But actually, once he went from Billy Bastion to Shazam, he didn't really change back to Billy Bastion that often. So what the hell, right?
I think from what I've read of comments on this character, I think I'm one of the people who's more forgiving. But even then, it's just, this is just a hot pile of steaming garbage. I
guess they're saying the Quake is the lightning, but it should be consistently towards the end when he's using it, right? He's using the super strength throughout the first portion of the comic book, and he's accidentally picking up cars. Like, that's how strong this character is. I get the traded defense, but something about these movement powers and the combination of attack powers makes zero to no sense for the character that they gave us here. When in the past they've given us super amazing Shazams. How did they step backwards from comic accuracy and say,
Compare him to the figure literally next to him in the list of his prime, and just...
Yeah, Freddie Freeman is a more accurate Shazam than Shazam was. And, I mean, this was 2 panels of or 2 pages of the same book.
I don't know if you've addressed this point, but Shazam is also unbelievably terrible.
What, this character in general, this dial?
No,
or?
this dial.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you only get willpower on 4 clicks.
He's bad.
He's so bad.
Real bad.
Like, this is as far as Shazam as a character, even if he's a stumbling teenager, is still better than this, and deserves better than this.
Laughably abysmal.
Yeah, he's just awful.
Yeah. Now, my next one, I dug pretty deep on this one because, and honestly, this was a starter set that I kind of yelled at 3 times when I bought it. It's my biggest Heroclix regret, and I'm glad it paid for itself in extra video games. And that is Dota 2. Now,
Wow.
having played the game itself, I understand how these characters work and how they function in the game. And just the visual representation of these characters, every single one of these characters deserves better than the figures that we got. Now, I want to thank WizKids for giving me an item that I could put in the game and then sell in the game for $80 and then buy Steam games with it. So I was in a better mood after buying this. But I've played games. If this guy gets fed, he is Superman. So what is this?
I think Faceless Void is just straight up one of the most overcosted pieces in this game ever.
Yeah, like, first of all, everything in this box is not conducive of what happens in Dota 2, except maybe Tidehunter, but even then, he's so tanky, I think a little bit more consistency his defense powers is deserved. He's the only one that justifies his cost. It's like they said, okay, we made Tidehunter, guys, you need this out next week. Witch Doctor, numbers. Faceless Void, numbers. Razor, numbers. Lich, numbers. None of it makes sense to the game itself, having played Dota 2. And, I mean, I know I'm going way off the rails here and just in a completely different direction. I'm getting blank stares from half of the room here. But honestly, this is, I feel like this is such a mismanaged starter, and I don't know what happened with the contract in this, but this could have been done with a lot more care and a lot more of a better set of characters and a better set of stats. Because honestly, if you look at visual representations of things when it comes to a video game like Dota 2, or even comic books, you get an idea of the emphasis of things. So when something triggers a physics reaction in a video game and rocks fly all over the place, you get an idea that should be powerful. Or big lightning bolts come from the sky and murder some dude, across the map. You get an idea that I should be talking about a Shazam level character, right? And I mean, I know you're getting stuck existing in the area of comic books and it gets a little wacky, but even in the sense of the game itself, like, these characters just didn't get the justice they deserved, I felt. And that's just kind of the way I saw it. I mean, I know I'm talking about something that we're never going to see another piece of again, and we're not going to see a redo of any of the video game figures, ever. So, but I just wanted to get that off of my chest as far as, look, I've played this game, that's not that character. All right, Jay, it's your turn to complain.
This is a dial in this game. I don't know why. I picked this dial for 2 reasons, one of which because it's just, I don't have to explain why this is awful, but also just it points to a trend that I've been noticing. Lex Luthor is a smart character. He is one of the smartest people in the DC universe. Yet, if you just look at this list of most of the Lex Luthors we have, they are just, oh, look, armor version. Oh, look, another armor version. And
there's a lot of them.
Another armor version. And another armor version. But if you read the comics, that is generally not the thing that happens. It's actually quite the rare thing to happen in the books. And it's actually quite funny. I remember when Superman Wonder Woman, we saw there was going to be a Lex Luthor, I was like, oh, cool, it's going to be a Lex Luthor who's actually from a storyline where armor happened, because that's what happened in the Public Enemy storyline that a lot of that set and then some of World's Finest had in it, where he had the whole mental breakdown when he was president and whatnot, but then we got this guy for some reason. And just another problem that I found is just that, like, there's not... The Lex Luthors we have, even the human ones, are just not smart enough. I mean, this problem is this is a really good dial, but it's a meaty Lex Luthor. But
That's
it's
true. It's Jesse Eisenberg.
It's perplex and prob. That is... Yeah, I get that it's a good dial, but it's not actually the smart character he's supposed to be. Yeah, this one has that wit, but like garbage for everything else. And the viable dial is the TK one. This one exists, fine, but this is not the smart character. We've had him as president twice now. We just don't have one that really reflects his intellect and his ability to go against Superman and be the viable threat that he should be. And I would just like to see a normal Lex Luthor who was as smart as he is supposed to be. It's especially sad considering how many Supermans now that are coming out are either stealthy or have just straight up uncanny ability, so you really can't actually match wits with him, so that's not...
Contrasting to what you're saying, I can't wait to see God of Apocalypse Lex Luthor when he gets made. He basically gets Darkseid's powers more recently.
He's like the God of Wisdom or whatever?
No, he's the God of Apocalypse. He has Darkseid's powers. He has the Omega Beams.
This is a good Martian Manhunter. I think we can all agree this is a good Martian Manhunter.
I can agree.
If anybody disagrees with me, this is the time to speak.
No, I'm down with that. He's a good piece.
This is not as good.
Too much.
I don't want to be the guy, but that's 3 figures from Trinity War.
I didn't even wait. You're saying period? Because I haven't got this. Is only my number 2. So far. This is technically only my number 2.
No, I'm saying you and my 2 makes 3 Trinity War figures so far.
Oh, it's going to be 4.
Boy.
This guy, when I saw a Martian Manhunter with a point level of 300, I was quite excited because he's a smart character. He's a detective and whatnot, as you can see by the keyword. He is also known to be as powerful as Superman sometimes and can take him. And as I recall, in the JLA, was supposed to be the counter to Superman. Unfortunately, his defenses do not reflect that in the slightest at all. Sorry. I understand, mathematically speaking, that within the Sealed Trinity War itself, he's actually still quite good, because Shape Change Super Sense is good defense prob. Yeah, that's all well and good, but that doesn't really matter when he is still only rolling with Super Senses and no reducer of any kind. This style would have been just so much better if just instead of that reddish little tint there with the Super Senses, it was just pink instead. So much better for 300 points if that was the case. Because no matter what, if my 300-point Martian Manager is going head-to-head against Superman and he hits me with an object, it should not deal full damage. Martian Manhunter is durable. This is not what reflects him. Even though mathematically the probability of the game is, yeah, he has good odds of being fine. That still shouldn't matter, because eventually the odds will not be in your favor and he will take a big hit to the face. And then that will be a very sad Martian Manhunter.
He's also not sitting on a large pile of cookies, so,
yeah.
Oh, I want that one so bad just for the throne of cookies.
It's really
I've got it. He's
yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, he's wonderful. JLI is a great keyword. It's sad also because a lot of the rest of the style is not bad at all. Like even his second click, that's pretty good. That's closer to what I would have wanted to see. But I would have been okay with no super strength. Just keep this first click as is, change that to impervious or invincible, and I would have been much happier with this style overall. And he really hasn't gotten his big, beefy, monster threat that he should have. And now we have our Trinity War number
Triumvirate.
3. Yeah. This style is too problematic for me. It's just...
Well, you don't like the telekinesis that doesn't make any sense?
The telekinesis that doesn't make any sense. And honestly, yeah, double prob is nice, but that is just too expensive for what you're getting. Just considering, yeah, you get double prob, but our close combat piece can just wreck him instantly. And he has traded stealth, which is well and good, but he has no Superman ally or anything to go with it to actually, Just, you know, because all stealth characters deserve to not actually have the power work well. And the other big problem with this style is that it doesn't reflect the character at all. Yeah, you have the magical capabilities there, but this is a character that more relies on his wits than magic.
Right.
Which is, the outwit power is nice to see, but just double... This is a character... If you read any Vertigo or whatever stuff, you see that magic has costs associated with doing it. You don't just have a character just doing magic all the time and being like, oh, I'm doing magic and it's fun, but there are costs attached. And that's so much of what this character does, where he has other people pay for what he does, or he just cons people. But this is just a super nice, friendly, happy, let's be a team and have some fun being a nice team character, which just does not at all reflect him. That's not even what they show in the New 52. Like in the Injustice comic, when he teams up with Batman, it ends up being purely for his own ends. That does not get reflected by what is essentially a newer version of the Fast Force's Scarlet Witch. And just, yeah, the stealth energy shield is such a waste too, especially for a character that can scrap when he really needs to. So, yeah, Trinity War. You gave me Atomica, but just so many disappointments. It's sad. Stop sharing.
Johnny
Well,
Quince,
yeah. I do remember the one part in Justice League Dark where he threw the axe at the vampires. Like, maybe you can fight like Batman.
And also, speaking of
But then
Shazam, there was also that part where he stole Shazam's powers, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, but based on that Shazam, why does he want those powers?
Fair point.
I went there. All right. So we do have one more topic to discuss, and it is it's actually relating to the Rock Canada Cup. And now Mike is no longer allowed to submit topics for the show.
I burned my bridges.
You give him an inch, he apparently likes to take miles. No, I'm just kidding. I'm messing around with you, Mike. He's good. We've been a little topic dry, and the summer is a little bit of a weak point for this in August. But before we get into that, folks, I do want to remind you that if you're watching the show live, if you're on YouTube, put your questions, if you have any questions, in the comments below, or on the Facebook link that you followed to get here, so that we can answer your fan questions later on in the episode. We do have a couple, but, the more the merrier, right? On that note, the next thing we're going to be talking about, without giving away our teams, guys, what are you most concerned about looking at across the table at the Canada Cup? So, of course, there's a lot of the meta, though it is, can you beat a certain thing right now, is there's some things that can beat that certain thing out there. And there are also teams in the big rock, paper, scissors that is the game of the meta game right now. What are the things that you fear coming across? So up first is Mike. What makes you Yellow Lantern your way through the day?
Yellow Lantern. I would say for me, and I know it's not a big concern for some other teams, Krang probably, because, and I do have a strategy for it. I do have a strategy to counter it. But because it's such a relatively common team, because it's so easy to get the pieces compared to some of the other teams, and it's so easy to pilot compared to some of the other teams, I'm just, I don't want to have to slog my way through 3 Krang teams in order to make my way through the day, 3 to 6 Krang teams in a row. My team doesn't necessarily deal with it as well as other teams, as I said before, but I can still kill it. It's not completely insurmountable. Also, the Subterfuge Token Lex Luthor team. It's also very difficult for the same kind of reasons. I mean, it's Running Shot Pulse Wave, or just Pulse Wave in the case of Krang. They can get through it just because they meet those requirements. I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about Loki, but also the point requirement for being able to target or draw a line of fire to them is being over 150 points, and both Lex Luthor and Krang have that. So those are 2 things that I find fairly concerning. Other things are, there aren't really a whole lot of things that can deal quickly with my team. So I'm not really worried about it beyond that. I'm sure there's going to be something out there that really surprises me. The sheer number of attacks, for instance, this is obviously not going to surprise me because I'm mentioning it now, but Doc Ock's multiple attack thing to really kind of get around the lack of prob on their team is kind of intimidating, but it's still an incredibly high number that they have to roll. and I have rollouts, and I have all these other ways of getting around them as well. So I'm not as worried about that team, but those are some of the things that I am concerned about, and aren't necessarily even concerned about, but wary of. I'm aware that they're there, and I am going to keep my eye on the prize when I'm playing those games compared to some others. Although I probably will be 100% focused 0% of the time, because that's just not how I roll. Anyway, I think that's it for me. What about you, Tom?
Well, honestly, my biggest concern is always, the unknown, and I don't say that just to be cheeky, but literally I do say that because, as much as we all try to keep all the dials in our heads and all the different strategies and stuff that you can come up with for them, then every now and again somebody does crack a nut in the way that nobody else has done before. And brings you something you never even considered. If somebody found some way of making like the OP set A-bomb into a dynamite killing machine, I would have to think twice and think, how many clicks is this guy, and what does he do, and what am I not seeing? Like, how did I not
Why is he
understand?
not in the library?
Yeah, like it is that. Well, it is the why is it not in the library thing, because it's so easy to fall into a trap when you don't know what the trap is. Now that's a cop-out of an answer to say I fear the unknown, because we all fear the unknown on some, I would assume.
I don't know.
when it comes to known things, I mean, the biggest thing that I'm concerned about is what I call the Robo Swarm team, which is just the team that consists exclusively of Ultron drones and Colossal Retaliation pieces, where your opponent has like 12 pieces, and none of them are a priority, and none of them are a target to speak of, that no matter what they lose, what remains will beat you up. I worry about that team personally. It's not, again, like Mike said, it's not like it's an I lose automatically against anything. To be fair, if I felt I automatically lost against anything, I wouldn't be playing a team that I thought automatically lost against something, especially not something that was prevalent in the meta. So if I was like, well, I can't beat the Quinjet, then I wouldn't play a team that can't beat the Quinjet, because I'm going to face the Quinjet. I mean, that's kind of a given, isn't it?
You almost sounded like Bill Cosby for half a second there.
Yeah,
you were going in that direction.
Wait, I'm going to go get a new drink then.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But that is me being honest. Is that I don't like the Robo Swarm. It's a bit of a concern. That Lex Luthor is also a concern, as Mike already mentioned. I find Loki concerning, but in all these cases, they're not concerns as in I'll never beat them. They're just things that I am concerned about facing, because I feel less confident in the potential outcome than I do against some other teams. Again, if I felt that there was a team that just auto beat me, then I wouldn't be playing. I wouldn't be playing this team. Yeah, that's just kind of the way it goes. So those are the things that concern me, and it doesn't mean that I can't do anything about them. But it does mean that when I see them across the table, then I may have a brief moment of disconcertion, and then we'll see what happens.
All right. I guess I'm next, and I do have one big fear, and it's the fear I always have, and I always have to deal with, because, gosh, we're getting good at this game at some points, guys, and that's having to play against my teammates. For one, because I know what Mike's team does, and F you, Mike.
Hey, stop it! You're telling people to counterbuild me out there every time you say it.
You know what? Everybody bring mystical.
Yeah, for sure.
No, but I hate playing against you guys because I know you're all good, and I know we all know each other's teams very well, and it's stressful. Sometimes the idea that comes that one of us might have to knock the other one out or whatever. So if it is that I have to play you guys, I don't mind. It's like when we're all 3-0 going into the fourth round, and one of us is okay to take a loss there, or whatever round it is at the Swiss, depending on how many people show up this weekend. Is the important thing is that we don't have to deal with it too early, or even at a bad point. I don't want to be playing against you guys in the 2-2 round where only one of us is going to make it through, right? And that gets stressful. It's like, shoot, man, if I lose, I'm out and I'm angry, and if I win, well, I just knocked my buddy out, and he's not going to be happy about that either. So that is always my biggest fear going to these tournaments, because we're a team now. I've never liked, even Magic, even in versus when I was playing on teams, I never liked playing against my teammates. So that's always one of my big fears in this in competitive play, is because I go into so many things that are individual competitive, not like when I was playing Australian rules football. It's, I'm the single competitor. I was always a wrestler. I was always a runner or whatever. It's like, that's my problem, not anybody else's. But when sometimes you have to come across a teammate in the competition, it's like, well, this has to happen now, and I don't, both you want to win, and you feel bad about beating the other guy, but you still want to win. So anyway, yeah, that's where I'm kind of going with the whole thing.
Who says you're not a sentimental guy, you big softy?
Yeah, well, you know what? For all the internalizing I do, it's all an act, right? I had to let something out eventually. I mean, it's been 2 bad weeks. So. There you guys go. That's the last bit of emotion you're going to get from this robot for a little while. But that was the steam venting out because I needed to get ready for next week. All right, Jay, you're up.
I'm just going to sum it up pretty concisely and say that I don't want to face Mike.
Come on. Come on, you guys, man.
It's rematch time, buddy. We'll see if it changes around. We'll see what.
Wow, that tone changed all of a sudden. All of a sudden, it's like, I don't want to play Mike. I'm gonna beat you, Mike.
Yeah. That's why he doesn't want to play him. He doesn't want to embarrass him.
Yeah, that's true. He doesn't want to just ruin my day.
I don't want to have to embarrass Mike Payne.
My intention was actually saying that.
That's so good.
Way to
somehow beat him in a round so badly that it just knocks him to the bottom of the stands. Like, I didn't even think that was possible.
I love how you managed to twist that to the exact opposite, where I was trying to say I'm going to lose to Mike, but thanks.
Yeah.
Well, you said you wanted the rematch, and all of a sudden you got into smack talk mode.
Yeah,
so I had to add the better narrative than what you were going to make.
You started shaking the ropes. It was weird.
It's all good, yeah.
Warrior watching.
Dun, 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 dun.
You know what's funny is all that brings up an important difference between our team and other teams, and I think we've said this on the air before, but in a lot of cases, when teams build teams, they share those teams. Like, they end up playing the same thing at the same events because they feel like it's the best team that they could make together, and makes them have more possibility of becoming that. The entire team is in the top 4, top 8, top whatever. We don't do that at all. We never play the same thing as one another ever. Really,
it's impossible to play the same team as Tom because he'll just play whatever random nonsense.
Random bullcrap. He basically
the night before.
Whatever Tom brings to practice is not what he's playing.
Basically, what happens is the night before he calls me up on Hangouts. We both take these hamster balls full of clicks and go like this, and we pull out like 10 to 12 random things. Yeah, exactly. But compared to other teams, we don't do that at all, really. And in fact, Emily from our team as well. She's the latest member of our team, at least in the WAN. She came top 4 with it was me, Jason, Tom, Emily, and then Tom were the top 4 at that Winnamap recently in Ottawa. And she played a completely different thing that she's been working on for a while, and it doesn't have very many similarities to anything that we're playing at all. I just find that remarkable and really, really kind of admirable. I'm proud of that anyway.
I think that our team, frankly, is more oriented towards trying to support each other in coming to a version of the team we want to play that we are most satisfied with, rather than saying you shouldn't play X, you should play Y. We were more about saying, well, if you want to play X, make sure that it has the following qualities, and let's see how to make it the best X it can be, as opposed to saying, maybe we should, or either saying you should play Y instead, or saying, you know what, that's great, I'm going to play that too. I think that our team is more built on trying to support each other in pursuing our own ideas than we are on trying to come up with a unified best plan approach. Because honestly, I don't strongly feel that you can really easily identify a best team. You can just identify a short list of best teams, and they all have unique and interesting ways in which they work against each other that are further that are further modified by the pilot and how they like to play and how their style influences the execution of that team. And so I think that coming up with one team that is the the one team to rule them all, yeah, it's a ways now in the meta since that has been really a viable thing. We're not seeing top 8s where everybody's playing the same thing. I can't remember the last time we've seen anything like that, and it certainly isn't recent. It's certainly not at the major events. So that to me says that there isn't a team to beat them all, just a bunch of teams to beat mostly each other and everything else. So I don't think there's anything wrong with playing our own thing in that respect. In fact, I'm not saying you do. I think that I agree. It's a good thing that we support each other in pursuing the ideas that we are passionate about, as opposed to trying to homogenize our thinking.
Right.
All right. So on that note, it's time to get into our monthly OP kit teams for this week. This week we added a little bit of an extra twist to it. We let some of our fans, or some of you guys who follow us on Facebook, participate in the game this week. So
Very cool.
you're able to submit teams to us at marriedwithclicks@gmails.com. Gmail.com.
The Gmails.
At
The
gmails.com.
Gmails. Oh. So now that I'm banned from speaking for a little while, so I do want to share those teams first, and I'm going to just spend this time kind of sharing those teams instead of sharing my own. Because one of these guys came to a very similar conclusion, though his version is Golden Age. And this is from Thomas Kusturin, who is also one of our patrons. So thank you, Thomas, for being a patron as well. Yeah. Speaking of which, before I forget, this Friday will be our patron hangout. If you are a patron, keep your eyes open on the patron page to get your link. And if you want to watch it live, keep your eye on Facebook for the link to that. But on that note, Thomas made an interesting little idea. He called it Shang Cheese.
Oh.
It is a Golden Age team, and it starts, of course, we have our Shang-Chi. Now, before we get too deep into this, let's talk about Mr. Chi, as it were. Shang-Chi, actually, I have this on HC Realms, nonetheless. But Shang-Chi is one of the OP kit figures from the Defenders OP kit, though absent the Defenders keyword.
The aptly named Defenders.
Yeah. So he comes in at 76 points. He's got 2 different dial types, and at the beginning of your turn, you get to choose which dial you're going to be on. So at the beginning of your turn, you may choose the offensive stance, which is the red clicks, or the defensive stance, which is the blue clicks. Turn Shang-Chi's dial to that same click number as the chosen color. So if you're on click 3, you choose blue, you go to blue, click 3. It's a pretty simple idea. He's got a special power on his attack dial. To fight is to thrive. Shang-Chi can use Precision Strike, give Shang-Chi a power action to make a close combat attack. His damage value becomes 1 and is locked for this action. During this action, each time Shang-Chi hits and the attack resolves, you may make an additional close combat attack against the same target, modifying his attack value by -1 after each hit until actions resolve. So basically, as long as you keep hitting, you can keep attacking. You just have to go down by 1 attack. Of course, that will follow the rule of 3, so minimum 9 attack in that case. So next you got a defense power. To defend is to survive. Shang-Chi can use combat reflexes and super senses. If an adjacent opposing character misses an attack targeting only him, you may place that character in a square adjacent to Shang-Chi, and then you may knock that character back 2 squares. I like that kind of almost a jujitsu move you and push you somewhere.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of judo kind of thing, but yeah.
So in any case, we have Shang-Chi, and talking about Thomas's team, which is actually right here, incidentally, he added to this team the Fast Forces Nightwing at 25 points 2 times.
Smart
Why?
Man.
Why do you want to do that, you ask?
Smart man. Read that attack power one more time.
One more time? Every time you hit, you get -1 attack. Well, that's a modifier.
But wait a second.
Hold on. But if I outsiders that away... Oh no! I get 12 attack for all of the attacks.
Boy, that's some good stuff. Yeah, I love that. That's a good plan.
So where he's going here is we have Nightwing, and you have Nightwing as a backup insurance option, just in case. Now, playing with my heart and my love of the martial arts, he did add a little taste of Kunlun and Li Kung the Thunderer. He's just good. I like this guy just all round. I love this character.
Yeah.
And your opponent always kind of goes, he does what? after you charge Flurry with the guy. Then he tries to run away. He's like, what do you mean plasticity? And of course he also has some Quake in there, and Quake that gives action tokens. So if you really just need to slow a bunch of things down and knock them around and push them, this is the guy to get in there and do it. He added Shroud to the team as well, maintaining a martial artist keyword, and add a little bit of smoke cloud and protection at a distance for the team, it looks like. And he's also added the new Civil War ATA, choosing Captain America for Shang-Chi. And if you're not familiar, it's an Avengers keyword. Because it's a martial arts theme team, he does get to use ATAs. And the one he chose was Civil War, which requires Avengers, is what Shang-Chi has, so he can use it on Shang-Chi. And the Captain America side says, if you choose Captain America, friendly characters using this team ability that are on their starting click and have no action tokens can use sidestep. It's pretty reasonable to keep Shang-Chi on his first click if you keep him on his defense now for a little while. 18 defense is pretty good. Pack it with super senses. He's got some chances there. So yeah, this is the team submitted by Thomas, and I have another team submitted by another player whose email referred to him as JoJo. His name is Joe.
Get back, Joe. Get back, JoJo.
Yeah. Joe, also playing in the realm of Avengers, but also martial artists. He starts, of course, with our Shang-Chi. It goes with the Iron Fist from Age of Ultron. I like Iron Fist. It really worked for me.
12 attack is good no matter who's holding it.
Yeah. And we also have Hawkeye from Age of Ultron, the movie set. This is the main set one. Now, I had to kind of look him up again, so just to bring everybody back to speed on that one, because I haven't thought about him in a while either, guys, so don't feel bad.
He's so good.
This Hawkeye comes in at 94 points. I'm going to share my screen here. He's got the Avengers Assemble trait where when a Hawkeye hits one or more characters with an attack, the opposing character chooses. Hit characters are dealt one unavoidable damage after action resolve, or Hawkeye isn't given an action token for this action.
That's a selfish choice.
This is also a Hawkeye that happens to have Sharpshooter. Why has he not in the past little while? I don't know. But he's also 8 range, triple target with the Avengers Initiative team ability, so he ignores hindering. He's got the Vantage Point trait when making a ranged combat attack. Modify Hawkeye's attack value by +1 for each target of the attack. When he hits 3 characters, he may give one hit character an action token if he doesn't assign that character any damage. So yeah, this is just an insane series of deal with this character. And he's also got on his first 3 clicks a rooftop maneuver. Hawkeye can use sidestep and stealth. When he uses sidestep, he can use improved movement, ignores elevated terrain. So add that to what we've already said. We also have. Oh, we'll just get rid of that for a second. We also have an Avengers round table to add to this with a Thor ID card, which would be great on the Hawkeye when you add the energy explosion on the inspiration. A swordsman.
With the inspiration doesn't give energy explosion. That's the character.
Doesn't it? Oh, okay.
The inspiration is minimum range of 6, additional target.
Okay, my bad.
So Avengers number 1 is the one who gives the energy explosion.
Hey, 4 targets. 4 targets.
4 targets is still okay
too.
4 targets is many targets.
That's a lot of targets.
Yeah. But then we also have Swordsman, Triathlon, who's just a really good call-in. Hellcat, because I know why we use Hellcat. Darn your sleeve change. And Manifold, just to get, just to facilitate Shang-Chi being there to do what he does.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to thank JoJo and Thomas for your great ideas for your team.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Good stuff, guys. Thanks for participating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to pass the floor on to Jay. Jay, what was your Shang-Chi team?
I specifically started my team off with a choice that a fan of ours quite enjoys and also did well in a recent tournament. So I started off with the OP Kid Blade, the 90.1 of awesomeness, and I gave him, of course, the Midnight Suns ATA. I followed it up with a Punisher from Civil War, the good one, not the good one. Everybody knows which one that is, right? That's the Stealth Suit one.
Stealth Suit, get out of here.
Oh, kind of went quiet on me.
Yeah.
So I gave that awesome one Eclipso, mostly to give him stealth, because he is a wild card, and he wild cards the Midnight Suns ATA for super awesome sneaky sneak, better than the other one sneaking, and then also other things like stats and whatnot. Then I added Shang-Chi, as was required. And then I finished off with a roundtable with all the awesome close combat actions. With Nightwing for the Fast Forces Nightwing for the obvious of obvious reasons. Hawkman because his inspiration is +1 attack and damage in close, and then he's a decent. Well, both of his modern options are too expensive to call in normally, so he's more of an Avengers Assemble one or a just awesome inspiration because awesomeness. Iron Fist is obviously there because Jason is in charge here, and we have to pander to him. And
I expect no pandering.
His
But Iron
inspiration
Fist is an awesome character.
His inspiration is +1 attack or damage in close. So that's very helpful too. And then we have Triathlon because he actually has a really good inspiration and is good. And I also don't have a Prime on this team because I'm not putting Night Lantern on that ID card, so I can easily use 3D Man. And one of the best things that 3D Man does is stop shape change. Go away, shape change.
Yep.
Go away, never come back. And I love that Blade, in addition to other awesomeness, is exactly enough points to call him in. So my nice little tidy close combat martial artist fighting team.
All right. Awesome. Mike.
Okay, I went with well, Shang-Chi because you have to. I also have. Let me. You know what? I'll share my screen. Let's do that. Let's get that done. There we go.
Just turn off that video you're watching.
Yeah, turn on. Shang-Chi possessed by a brainiac in this case because right now you notice he does not have good defenses right off the bat. I don't want to have to switch him back and forth too much because getting him in there and getting him doing what he does best, which is that one attack after another with that locked 1 damage, is tremendous. So yes, Brainiac here because on clicks 1 and 2 he gives possible impervious and +1 defense. And then you get into his special damage click as well, which would allow me to continue to attack repeatedly. And if we notice here, we've got, he's still got 11 attack on click 3, so he's still going to be able to deliver some damage. Now, if I switched him over to the other dial as well, I can use the Envy Relic in order to copy the attack value of an opposing character. And give him ESD, which is, takes care of some of the ranged defenses. But realistically, I had originally envisioned Envy being on Manifold, making him into a more valid attacker because, as you can see here, he has 9 attack on his first two clicks. Now, the one thing I notice is that, generally speaking, I want to be able to bring the fight to my opponents fairly quickly, and that's why I did put Manifold on this team. I love this character, between the TK and that special carry that gives the +1 defense, and his second click, bringing out probability control. You've got an all-round amazing character. Plus, his move actions don't count towards your total, although in this case, it really doesn't affect the team at all. Third character on my team is Beast, the best Beast, in my humble opinion. And that is the special outwit, no line of fire required. Let's outwit everybody within, 4 squares? Yes, 4 squares. And moving along, we've got Secret Avengers ATA, which is characters using the team ability using this team ability can't be the target of an opponent's outwit or perplex unless they've been targeted with an attack previously in the same turn. Doesn't mean they have to hit you, but at least they have to target you with an attack. I went with the Pandora's Box and the Sloth Relic, which would be put onto either Shang-Chi or Beast, depending on what the situation requires. I love that relic, as everybody who's ever used it does as well. +1 defense for either ranged or attack. And at the end of your turn, this character wasn't given any actions this turn. Heal it with 1 damage. Also have the Envy Relic, as I mentioned earlier. This is a 2-relic Pandora's Box. I do prefer this 2-relic version, as you guys know very well.
I'm chuckling away because it's like, it's a two relic version of Pandora's Box for Mike. Shocking.
Shocking. It's a
I didn't see
shocker.
it coming.
Yeah. Either the Path of the Hunter or the Ravager are both very good, giving either the roll of 1 to 3 would give either running shot or charge, depending on which direction I want to go in, and 4 to 6 giving either prov or perplex, both very useful. is a good way to go. And then, of course, some Colossal Retaliation. I'm dealing with a close combat team, so I am going to get hit every once in a while. And, of course, using the Atom. You know, it's pretty clear. No rocket science here. Just lots of good old fun in your face, pummel you for 1 damage repeatedly until you die action.
Nice.
The end.
All right, awesome. And I believe that wraps it down to Tom.
That it does. And
Wrap it down, Tom.
You bet, baby. All right. Well, I'm going to also share my screen. Obviously, started my building with Shang-Chi, much like everyone else, and I went with an Avengers theme team for this one, using a couple pieces that I haven't really had occasion to use yet. I like Shang-Chi a lot, although I do think he's pretty soft. Even in his defensive stance, he's only 4 clicks deep. He doesn't have any kind of reduction, and combat reflexes is really only as good as being up close is concerned. So I wanted a good way of trying to get him in there as effectively as possible. And you could say to me, well, Tom, did you just build this team so that you could make him tiny and Hawkeye could shoot him in on the end of an arrow? And I said, yes. Yes, I did. So here we have the Hawkeye from the new Captain America Civil War movie set. I've put him in at 85 points, but I am going to pay the 5 points to give him some shape change from range. He's a great little piece. Outstanding attacking piece with the ability to hit for energy explosion from a range of 8 with an 11 attack, or just go with it as RCE with his already 3 base damage, means that he can do some serious good here. If he dumps it onto his attack, it's a 13 attack to do 3 damage, or go with 12-4 or 11-5 if you want to really hit hard. And let's not forget the fact that when he hits an opposing character with a ranged combat attack, their defense value is modified by -1. But he's really here for the riding on an arrow. When he hits an opposing character with a ranged combat attack after action is resolved, you may place an adjacent friendly character with the Avengers keyword and tiny symbol adjacent to the hit target. Now, Ant-Man, also from this set, as we know, has an attack power that allows him to choose an adjacent character and give them the tiny symbol or giant symbol for this turn. He's on this team, and I'm also giving him shape change from range, with shape change and super senses, giving him 2 nice roll-out opportunities. And of course, he's tiny and kind of bops around. I should have mentioned earlier that he also has the ability to change the size on opposing characters. And finally, an Avengers Sky Cycle, because I absolutely love this thing, and really putting the movie Hawkeye onto the Sky Cycle deals with the fact that he has no move and attack. Now the Sky Cycle gets an 8 range, 10 movement running shot with 11-3, or you can stay where you are if you've got a shot and use the RCE along with those replaced values, and he becomes a real beast. The Sky Cycle hits really hard. But part of the idea here is I've also got Pandora's Box on, and I've got 3 relics on this. Much to Mike's chagrin, and would actually suggest the path of the manipulator in this case, because it gives the barrier smoke cloud opportunity, because that's largely what Ant-Man is going to be doing, is using either smoke cloud or barrier defensively on this team when he's not otherwise helping get Shang-Chi in there. The 3 relics I went with were Envy, ASD, and Sidestep. I had the idea of putting this on Shang-Chi just so that he could choose to replace his attack value with his targets when his own started to deplete when he's using that multiple attack thing. Lust is also on there because plasticity, sidestep, and combat reflexes is a good way of getting Ant-Man in nice and close and locking down your opponents. Remember that being tiny doesn't negate plasticity, it just makes it a little less effective. And Wrath is largely there to give willpower to Hawkeye. They all, of course, get sidestep. Combat reflexes isn't never a terrible thing either. And the idea here is that Hawkeye jumps on board the Sky Cycle, and at a convenient moment, the Sky Cycle pops out Hawkeye. Hawkeye sidesteps forward. Shang-Chi sidesteps forward. Ant-Man makes Shang-Chi tiny. Hawkeye makes a ranged attack, places Shang-Chi next to him, and Shang-Chi goes on an attack flurry. That's a combo that is worth building an entire team around trying to make happen at some point in your game. I know it's not too likely, but hey, I like the idea of making it happen. Let's see if it'll happen.
It's
and that's
worth
it.
the smile if it happens.
I agree. And that's my team.
Very nice, very nice. I actually at one point during the Yu-Gi-Oh series was like, one day I'm going to build with the Ultimate Dragon and bring the big one in with the 3 of them on the board. And I did it in all 3 rounds, then I lost all 3 rounds.
That's okay. The important thing is you achieved your objective.
Exactly.
It is always winning.
Personal win conditions count. All right. So before we get into our fan questions, I do want to send everybody towards majesticccg.com. We're running a little late in the episode, and I can't go over the recent results from the Tulsa regional event that happened very recently. But if you look at the top 4, there are 3 names that are very familiar. Paris Gordon, Joshua Ernest, and Edward Sheldon were in the top 3. I do want to congratulate everybody who made this article in the top 8. Fantastic work on making the top 8 in the regional. It's a lot of work because those regionals get hyper competitive and are really, really, really good players show up, as was evidenced by this event. So, once again, check it out again at majesticccg.com. This is going to be one of those articles that you don't need to be an Apex insider for to get access to.
Nor of my article.
Awesome. So yes,
But you should be anyway.
Yeah. Be an Apex insider anyway. It's a great. Sometimes the great minds do offer up some nuggets of awesomeness. All right. So without further ado, it's time for our fans' questions. And you can, of course, submit these via Facebook whenever we post a link, or check it out in the comments below if you're watching this live. If you're watching this episode in the archive version, put it in the comments, and I will try to get it to it next week as well. Or you can email them to us at marriedwithclicks@gmail.com. So without further ado, we start with Matt Wallace. He says, "What's up, guys? I'm curious about if there's any wild cards in the game that you guys think might be good in the competitive for 70 points or less. I really like the 25-point Nightwing from the Fast Forces, and I want to try to use Harley Quinn from the Flash set because I think she works well when she has the Lust Relic attached. But what do you guys think?"
I already did my homework on this one.
All right, so Jay, go ahead. Do your.
I'm going to preempt Tom by saying...
No, Ragdoll.
Tom wins. Tom,
This one is the worst.
Flawless victory.
Heroclix.
You may now go ahead.
In addition to Ragdoll, who is effective, as Tom has made himself through.
Tom, you like Ragdoll?
It's a surprise to everyone, I'm sure.
We have the upcoming Frogman from Superior Foes to do his cool things, with his whole knocking people back, and he looks like a fun character to play. Chameleon is a wild card, and he is quite versatile, as is the appeal of all wild cards. Bucky from the Nick Fury set, the Bucky as Bucky, is quite good, especially as an ID card, because that is one great inspiration. With the stopping shape change, as is a thing that we like to happen. Hi, Tom. Your eyes are scaring me.
Sorry, I was reading something. That's all.
He has Empower, Blades, and Attack for 45 points. Easy to call and great inspiration. Does lovely things. I like him. And traded a wild card. Limited to having to wild card stuff from shared keyword characters, unfortunately, but technically he can't. The Fast Forces Lex Luthor that I actually mentioned before as an ID card is quite effective. I saw him play for his DK Perplex. And he has that cool thing that he has that trait where he can pick one of 2 options of dial to use with his coolness that he has. And then lastly, I guess technically, it would have to be Casey Shazam at lower points with his Defend for 30 points, which is crazy. He's turning into a monster, which I had the pleasure of playing in a local tournament where he actually basically won me a game by turning into the Running Shop Pulse Wave monster. And removing the tokens from other characters is great. He is a great piece, and I quite enjoy him. So that was basically what I found.
All right.
Frankly, that seems fairly exhaustive. Without doing my research, I don't think I could contribute much. I'm going to say right.
Mike, did you want to add anything? Or
No, I agree with Tom. I think it's very concise.
All right. On that note,
Let me just double check something. Technically, I missed the Guardians of the Galaxy pieces because they don't count as wild cards in the unit section because they don't technically have it, but they have an ATA that gives it. So
That's
before I let you go, Kitty Pryde with that ATA, the Prime, could be quite good.
There we go.
Because she is already awesome, and making her wild card edition can be really good depending on what you want to do with it.
Awesome. All right. Our next question comes from the man who puts the stamp on the episode, Mr. Chris Stockhouse.
Oh, yeah.
He leads in with some unfortunate news, so I won't be able to make Canada Cup.
Oh, no.
You suck.
Cup fun. So unfortunately, It will still be a little while before I will see you guys in person again for the first time. But never fear, World Cup is right around the corner, which is true.
That's true.
So let's talk about Overdrive, and more importantly, his charged up bystander token. 11 speed with sidestep on top of what is great on any is great on any piece, but things start to get crazy when that piece is a free bystander vehicle that can carry 4 characters or even 5 if one of them is tiny. I think the obvious play is with the OP Kit Doc Ock, or even 2 of them, keeping the Sinister Syndicate theme, but other strategies come to mind. Having charged up, carry a Faust in a good shutdown positioning after the D20 roll, or even playing him with green light to have added mobility when carrying up the field. One thing I want to try is having a charged up push to carry into position 2 Doc Ocks to attack 8 times, but parking next to another object so Overdrive can free action, make a new one, and then carry everyone away. Have you guys looked at Overdrive with his potential? What do you think, and why shouldn't everyone play Overdrive? Good luck at Canada Cup. Hope everyone has a good time and the dice cooperate with you. I think we talked a little bit about Overdrive and how when you take into account everything that you can do with Vanisher, Overdrive just does a little bit better and 5 points less. Yeah. Because that token adds a sidestep. The movement isn't adjusted, so he is a full 13 movement, whereas I think you get 12 out of Vanisher after you adjust for carry. And add in the fact that a lot of things don't matter as far as what he can carry because of the vehicle rules, being that he can carry things like flyers or, of course, tinies. I guess flyers would be the important one. I think you can't carry giants and everything like that. But I know we've talked about him, not like to details of double a Doc Ock, but I know double Doc Ock's the thing you can already do with Vanisher. This just maintains the theme, like you said, which is a name theme. Adds some prob to the mix. So, that's a pretty good idea.
I agree with that being you said, I think you said it was the obvious choice. I mean, it's still it's good. It's not obvious as in like a foregone conclusion. It's just it's the natural choice, maybe a better word for it, because you maintain the theme and it's such a great way of doing it. So I agree, and I don't know, it's hard to say because there's a lot of pieces that work in that type of context. I mean, it's great when you can carry up a lot of pieces, then by all means bring along your Nighthawk Prime so that you've got an outsider there, or anyone else who's got outsiders. You can bring along Sloth. I'm still a big fan of Sloth and his ability to create a local area of effect whereby people's actions are limited and giving out Earthbound Neutralize can be effective.
He's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, Sloth can be a pain, and he's not the easiest to build with, but he's one that the biggest challenge usually is getting him into position. So Overdrive is naturally very good at that, and lots of, if you're going to try to do poison type things, then Overdrive is a natural choice for that. It's anything that involves a lot of clustering and whatnot. It's great. He's at this point, I can't imagine how he isn't fair to be said to be more or less the best taxi in the game if you're not thinking themey, and in some cases when you are.
Mike?
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, he's a tremendous piece. There's not really a whole lot I need to add to what Tom was just going on about.
Can he carry just regardless of combat symbols?
Combat
he can,
symbols,
right?
yes.
Because he's a vehicle.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
So he's good for Iceman too.
Yep.
As long as you're giving your Iceman his sidestep, then he's a great way of getting Iceman across the whole board in a big old hurry and then sidestepping into position to lock him down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jay?
Does no tactics or limited allow ATAs? Just curious because I'm building a team for this.
Limited does still allow allow ATAs now, yes.
Okay, because Overdrive makes me mad. I'm a man of principle, and I have defended my choices in life many times, one of which is that I prefer the Sinister 12 ATA over the original Sinister 6 one. But Overdrive just made me make a team that uses the original Sinister 6 ATA, and that upsets me very much.
Yes, I imagine it also upsets the legions of... no, wait, it's just you.
The legions of ATA aficionados, because alliteration is great. Because Doc Ock works really well with it. So the team I just put together for Limited, 2 Doc Ocks, Overdrive, Speed Demon for Prob, Thug, then the original Sinister 6 ATA, because Doc Ock works with that ATA incredibly because he attacks 4 times. you want to get as many tokens as possible. This gives you as many tokens as possible. So, yeah. It comes out to 300 exactly.
Whew,
So I
that's
have nothing
pretty
to add to
brutal.
the conversation on overdrives, but he can just go away because I'm mad at him now.
Bring your sloth against the multiple Doc Ock team.
Yep. That sloth is the unforeseen entity of things that will deal with that guy. All right.
I don't think that he's unforeseen, and I don't think he's about to be seen. I just don't think he's good enough. But
I've tried sloth teams too, and I'm in your boat there. It's like I'm gonna make
I was
him
just
work
building
with it
one right
before
now.
he's gone.
I think without the axe, not really. I mean, Swordsman ID gives
Swordsman, yeah, I tried
Yeah.
that against Jason. It didn't turn out too well. Mind you were playing a zombie team base and you ripped me asunder. But all the same, the
Yeah.
point was.
But that was when we were doing the gauntlet. It's like, oh god, we have to do this each. Like each of us has to play this thing to ruin the
Yeah,
other guy.
with Swordsman and what's the other one? Not Vixen. There's another one that gives
What was the other one that gives
Katana.
Katana.
Katana. Yes, I tried both of them. It's okay. It didn't work so well.
Smarter people than us will probably be able to pull this
Yeah,
off.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
They are out there.
They are the them.
They're out there.
All right. Next up, Charles L. Franklin. What points? Oh yeah. Okay. What point total would be too big before the game starts to feel more repetitive and fun? I have in my long days of Heroclix, I have played everything from as little as 100 points to as much as 3,000 points. And I find the sweet spot is 600 points. Once you get past 600 points, it becomes a cluster. And even at 600 points, there's a lot of clusters of things that you're just listening to the guy go over and over again. So, all right, yeah, you have 1,000 perplexes, fantastic, okay, and 8, okay, yeah, lots of enhancement, all right, yeah, okay.
I find that it
Done yet?
really has more to do with the number of opponents that you're playing at once. So
Well,
battle royals can be really tedious, especially if you have a higher point game.
Well, and that's why I really stress like the beat up on one guy strategy when you have multiple players, because then you limit like 6 out of 7 players, and then the 7th guy has one really big team. So if one guy has one really big turn, but everybody else has really quick turns in fair comparison, I think that kind of gives everybody a fair chance to play.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, what?
The question is, how many points do you find is too many, or does it get to be ridiculousness?
The game changes dimensions as the points go up. Kind of. I mean, there's no. A lot of other factors are considered. Whether you're still imposing the same time limit is a big thing. Since the hour-long time limit becomes a problem, in my opinion, basically as soon as you hit 500 or higher. At 300, 400, I think an hour is still doable. As soon as you hit 500, I start to become, a little bit unsure. And also, for what it's worth, I guess that because we're called the Meta Lab, it should be acknowledged that the game is based on a 300-point meta, and so I would not personally feel comfortable arguing for a meta presence of a build total above 300 in the sort of the standard modern age. But that's a whole other conversation. As far as when does it become out of hand, I think there's ways of adding restrictions so that it can stay within hand, but as soon as you hit, in my opinion, 700 is the magic number. That 700 and higher is just too much.
Yeah,
So we're already at 600.
we don't go above 600 really at the cache, because it's those games. Nobody ever finishes. Like it's the guy who's taken 2 of your figures that wins the match, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Especially if it's 6 actions per turn. But then we add, as Tom was saying, we add in modifiers like the Blitzclicks modifier, which is 1 minute turns, for instance, if we're going to go into higher point values, which changes things a lot. It changes the way you build as well, because you can't be spending time perplex this, perplex that, outwit him, then do my attack. It's got to be pretty quick. Either that or it's got to be the higher point characters and less of them in order to really make it work and make it reasonable.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I say 600 is having played as many games as I had, I find 600 gives you a chance to throw in that 300-point character or that 600-point Colossal and get a chance to play it in an environment where you get to really see how it works or see how it's meant to be. But at the same time, if you play with that 300-point character, you get a chance to build a team around it as well. So that's why I always said 600 is a good one. Jay,
I think 600 is the magic number mostly because it's enough points to basically build anything you should realistically want to.
Yeah.
Outside of something that should be just higher than 600, like a mega thing, but like otherwise, I don't think there's any time when I've been like, oh, I need more than 600 points to build this awesome whatever. That's not really. It's a sweet spot.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, Mike Backley, who's been a regular contributor in the past 2 weeks, and thank you very much for that. Hello again. My question to you is, with the importance that we the players tend to place on rock events and other community-run tournaments, do you feel that limits WizKids' desire to directly run more tournaments and/or have more year-round events? Looking at their site, they still don't have the events scheduled past Origins. It is frustrating that they do not seem to want to support a more competitive scene season. Are they making the players create their own system? It's not so much that they don't want to with the Rock in existence, but at the same time they don't want to disenfranchise the players because the Rock kind of showed up out of nowhere to fill in a hole that WizKids wasn't filling in at one point. But at the same time, let's not discount the fact that in the past 2 years, we've seen attempts at things like Con in Your Store, or more recently the WizKids Opens, which the WKOs, which are on par events with the idea that we get of the Rocks. They're the same size. There are still some flaws in that system. A lot of players aren't big fans of Sealed. As well, the biggest flaw in that is these events are only going to be run by stores that super support things more than Heroclix. So these are WizKids Opens, and they're really trying to push at these events WizKids games all together. So you got to expect that at these events it's going to be Dice Masters, Attack Wing, and Heroclix all being played. So getting past that fact, I don't think WizKids doesn't want to run these events. I think they want to run these events, but the current manpower thing and unfocused manpower, where they have 3 products they have to run, and they have to make sure all of them are getting to these big events. They have to find a way to organize these events so they can track them, keep a hand on them, and then get them going and have all the stores in the right place, because it does cost the stores money, and they don't want to overdo that to the store. So there's a lot of factors in as far as that. And the Rock kind of fills in a hole where WizKids hasn't been able to fill in the hole, but it hasn't been without effort, I would say.
Yeah. Well, that's called line extension, right? I mean, when you're talking about the way the WKOs are run themselves, I mean, yes, I fully acknowledge what you're saying about having them now really is competition for the Rock itself, because the Rock can't compete pricing-wise directly with WKOs. They don't have access to the sheer number of LEs within the budget, because they try to make there's several factors involved in setting up ROCs, and one of the big ones is budget, right? What can we provide that's unique for them that doesn't require us to have direct product from the distributor, because they're obviously not directly sanctioned to be able to run these. So there's that factor, but there's also the idea, and this is from the WKO side, of line extension, where they're trying to cram all 3 products into a single store's lineup for those events themselves, and that doesn't work with a lot of stores, including, for instance, 401 Games, because they don't play Dice Masters at 401 Games. They play both Attack Wing and Heroclix there, and they sell incredible amounts of product. They're a really, really big store here in downtown Toronto, for example. But yeah, it's just they don't have the same level of interest there to be able to run the Dice Masters events, and so it's just not possible. Whereas we had a very successful WKO out in Whitby through Comic Book Addiction. They ran an incredibly successful show. In fact, it may have marginally edged out the WizKids Nationals turnout this year. But yes, there are, as Jason was saying, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, there are mechanical issues with the WizKids tournaments, but I think that they're going in the right direction overall, because that Con in Your Store thing really was a flop. It just didn't work.
Oh, yeah. Well,
especially in Canada. Canada, in particular,
it was such a flop it didn't exist.
No, it didn't exist. Yeah, it just wasn't here. Also the Battle Royale series as well didn't do as well as it could have. There are different logistical requirements in the different countries as well, like Canada versus the U.S. Because we have so much space in between our different locations and so much space in between our the actual major cities here. It's a lot more expensive for players to travel to play in other places.
Mhm.
And so that's why they've been less successful here. I know that the ROC has extended themselves, and now they've come up with the Rock Canada Cup, for instance, the national level events, which makes it more possible to do higher level play here because the kit is less expensive than a nationals kit from WizKids, for instance.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a lot of details that are still going on, but overall, I think it's going in the right direction.
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say, with respect to the question of, do we feel like The Rock is dissuading WizKids from developing higher level tournaments because they're kind of filling that void? I don't think so, and I think that the developments that we've seen with the WizKids Open really is responding to the fact that The Rock has proven that there is a viable fan-based travel participate in larger events if they exist and are given some incentive to do so. I'm personally a pretty firm believer in the old aphorism that a rising tide lifts all boats. And I really think that that's what happens here, is that the Rock has proven that model can be successful, and WizKids isn't so much looking at it and saying, we have to take that over, or we have to beat that thing. At this point, there is still much more demand than there is supply when it comes to large-scale tournaments within the Heroclix community, and so I feel like WizKids is making steps to start to fill in some of that demand that's there. We may reach a point where suddenly there are if there are other organizations, or if the Rock and WizKids start doing more and more, and attendance starts to wane as people are sort of getting weary of it, then maybe the supply and demand will start to equalize. But right now, there are lots more people hungry to participate in these events than there are events for them to participate in. And as long as that's the setting, then I think WizKids is investing in going in that direction. They just are doing it from a perspective that pushes all of their products and encourages, buying their product while you're participating.
Jay?
They also do completely different things with what they're catering towards. I mean, you might see some people that don't even care about the Rock events because the prize that they have is more maps and unofficial stuff, so it's not actually appealing, whereas WizKids, they know that they have the ability to offer figures and prizes and whatnot that the Rock simply can't. So market-wise, they're targeting different people, and I wouldn't see a reason why WizKids would think that the Rock is competing when they're just not the same thing, really. Mm-hmm. The appeal of the official prizing is just so much different than what the Rock can offer in some ways. So. And some people just might not care if you tell them, oh, it's a Rock event. Oh, I don't really care. It's not a WizKids thing. No thanks.
Yeah.
There's no reason why WizKids would not want to make money. I mean, that's their business. It's just a matter of making it work financially and actually turning a profit and whatnot. So, in addition to everything else that we've seen recently, we've had Canadian Nationals, which was a thing nobody would have expected before. Mm-hmm. So it seems clear that they're trying to make stuff happen, considering how there was zero competitive anything in Canada a couple of years ago, but now there's Rock and WizKids stuff. So they are seeming to be heading into the right direction, and hopefully they don't see the Rock as a competition.
Yeah. If anybody wants to see a very similar comparison to the Rock and Rock's relationship to WizKids, look no further than also run by TCG Player, the Star City games in comparison to Magic the Gathering's overarching prize and tournament pool is you can't be there at all places at all times, and sometimes a void can be filled. When U.S. Nationals is going on, if the Rock runs something up in Canada, we're not really getting in each other's way, right? Mm-hmm. Ultimately, it's all healthy for the game, and it's all everybody's getting butts and seats and games getting played. So, WizKids
There's
is
also
doing
the fact.
Go ahead.
I was also going to say that I just remembered a couple. When Isaac won the Rock World Cup, WizKids actually had an interview with him.
Yep.
And they put it up on Heroclix.com, and the first paragraph starts with, "We always appreciate it when fans run successful events and provide opportunities for players to get together for friendly competition."
Yeah.
They seem to be liking the Rock, if anything, and seem to be encouraging it.
Why wouldn't they?
Always remember that competitive play encourages competitive purchasing. And we need to get more figs to get more competition. And so if The Rock is encouraging competition, WizKids is doing their part to encourage competition, then figures are flying off the shelf, everybody's happy in both senses.
A rising tide floats all boats.
Again. So, like Tom said, it's not a bad thing. I've got one more question from McConnell Lamar, and I just got to pull it up again because I just realized I pulled something else up to screen share on our outro. It's not that funny. But McConnell asks, it would be great to have a villain-based resource that isn't as weak as the Penguin. What could be a good villain resource? If we look at the early days of resources, I think we actually, for a period of time, had more villains than good guys because we started with the Infinity Gauntlet. That's Thanos's, or whoever happens to have it, but mostly, focused on Thanos. Then we had the Bat Belt, which is Batman's, okay. And then we had and as he said, we had the Penguin. But then we had the Book of the Skulls. Those were the bad guys' hammers.
Mm-hmm. And the power plant after that.
And then we had the power plant, which is Mandarin's rings. And then we had the power batteries, and half of those are good and half of those are bad. So if you actually look at the trend, there's more bad guy reasons. I mean, even Pandora's Box is kind of a neutral bad guy thing. It's only really been the two recent Round Table. Sorry, we recently had the Round Table, the Quinjet, and the Justice League teleporter, which all seem, those are your good guy resources, and those are also the three most recent resources we had. So are we due for a bad guy one? Sure.
Well, it depends how you classify the Punisher.
Oh, yeah, and the Punisher band. Sorry, I don't count it though. I mean, playable resources.
True, very well said.
Yeah, the Punisher is the Penguin of the good guys. There we go.
We did have an Oracle who had similar-ish effects, and even back in the day with the old feat, so Calculator could easily be one of those villain resources.
Hey, yeah. I mean, honestly, though, we're due for another villain resource. It's just what villain has the right...
Even President Lex Luthor is a resource of sorts-ish, kind of.
So he's a character, but let's talk in this.
He's resource-ish.
Let's not pull at straws here. Let's talk about he's talking about a resource, right?
One of the challenges that I might suggest when it comes to, and this is setting aside resources for a second and just talking about team building. One of the problems with villains sometimes is that it's harder to build viable keyworded theme teams with a lot of villains unless we're talking about generic keywords, and even there, a lot of the times they don't work together as well. I mean, there are villainous teams, and obviously they're doubling down on giving us as many Sinister Syndicates and Brotherhoods of Mutants and Legions of Dooms as we can get, but they still fall vastly behind the Avengers and the Justice Leagues and so forward, and that's just kind of the way that comics history goes. So one thing that perhaps might have some future would be to this isn't a villainous resource, but it's pretty much an open one, is some kind of resource that allows for more flexibility in terms of keyword building. And I know that seems like a bit of a bit limited or a bit boring maybe, but I still think that it would be an interesting thing to introduce more mechanics that allow you to take advantage of being able to build theme teams, but to have a character or two that form an exception to that, either in conjunction with some kind of modest penalty, or perhaps even that you gain a benefit from being able to build a quasi-theme team when you're building it with this particular resource. I don't know. It's the first thing that comes to mind.
It reminds me that just with the numbers, there are quite a few ID cards now of characters that have been villains, so you could theoretically just do that, but make an evil round table.
Yeah. Mike, any thoughts on the matter?
Nope.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hard thing to discuss right out because what it really makes a villainous resource, because it's really the MacGuffin just happened to be in the bad guy's hands, right? Like the Infinity Gauntlet, it's going to do good things in a good person's hands. It's going to do bad things in a bad person's hands.
I think really it just depends on the player, whether they're truly a villain in their heart or not. That's really all that really determines whether or not
How
it's a
good are
villainous
the
or
good
not.
guys, Mike?
Yeah.
How good
Are they? How good?
Spoken like a true member of the Brown Lantern Corps.
Oh, Brown Lantern.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, man. Hilarious.
Oh, man. I want to thank all of our fans for your questions this week. I want to thank you guys for being patient and another long episode. It's been a while since we've had an episode this long. So, Mike, take a little control on the notes next time. Once again, thanks to our sponsors at hcrealms.com. You saw them earlier. It was a wonderful place for building your team. We all use it for building our teams without having to dig through the collection. It's also a great place to get the conversation going, find out where the conversation is going. It's also a great place to shop. Use that shop section. Use the coupon code MARRIED for 10% off the purchase that you get out of that cool Heroclix gear. And we're also brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com. We briefly, as I mentioned them about the regional tournament. The results are up there. Check out Jay's article, the Fringe articles, the figures. It's got the Fringe title on. It's kind of neat. So when J.J. Abrams is
I'm
done
a loose
suing
cannon, man.
check out those articles. So check that out, of course. But as always, guys, when you're getting ready for that big tournament, that whether it's Heroclix being run by Wizkid itself or The Rock, always remember, guys, that in everything that we're doing, that practice
makes
your
Team.
better. See you guys at Canada Cup this weekend, starting Saturday, August 6th, and goes to Sunday, August 7th, at 4-1 games. It's going to get hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.